Now, this brother started with us, what, March 1st, 1994, is that right?
Yes.
What was the name of your lecture that night?
I couldn't tell you.
Anybody know what it was? Something about Sirius? He has done a lot of tapes that he's showing you. He has done tons of tapes, right?
About 70, well, about 70 tapes and about, what, about 119 lectures within the last 3 years, so.
Okay.
You know, so.
And you've been everywhere, the east side anyway. Where all have you been? Detroit, Philly.
Let's see, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Detroit, Virginia, D.C., Philly, New York, and Tennessee, New Jersey.
You been to South Carolina?
Yes, South Carolina, that's my home state, been there several times. So basically all up the East Coast. And that's interesting because there's a different kind of energy on the West Coast. And it's interesting because I have a brother that's with me. His name is, well, I have a brother that's with me and his name is Brother Juju. He is a brother that,
I want to say something.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Well, I was getting ready to say, well, go ahead and you say what you have to say.
You want to tell the story now?
No, you go ahead and, as soon as you get through, I'll tell the story.
When I throw you on your
Yeah, okay, well, you go and tell the story as soon as you get...
Hand the mic back, please.
Oh. Okay.
That's why I didn't want you to put it in.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Yeah. All right. You do that. Well, you keep it in your pocket and I can...
Anyway, we're going to finish this real quick. Anyway, I was telling you about the different places. He's already told you where he's been and everything. His very first tape was done 1992.
92, some of 92.
And that was in black media.
Yeah, the Dogon.
The Dogon. I have that tape.
Well, I actually opened up the weekend of, it's something spiritual. I opened up the weekend of the uprising, what we call riots, but the Rodney King uprising. I opened up with Steve Coakley. And after that, later on, about a month later, I did my first lecture. I did my first lecture in June.
Yeah.
So, in June. So, but I first opened up with Steve Coakley on the uprising in 92.
And there's one thing that we can all say. The people that were there last night, the people there that are here tonight, we love Bobby. Is that true? Stand up and give him a warm welcome. Come on. Let's give it to Bobby. Bobby Hemmitt.
Okay, now we ready to go?
Yeah, you can tell your little story.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I'd like to say this about Sister Hatshepsut, better known as Bert, better known as Hatshepsut, alias Bert Lockett, from Rick James' hometown, the freak of the week and the, super freak country. And I want to say this about her is that her, just as the sister from, I have a great relationship with her, just as the sister from Philadelphia, Sister Delilah, who has saved my behind a lot of times based on financial, especially at the, in November when my damn lights got cut off, and and different things like that. So she is an angel, but Sister Bert, what has happened with her is basically, a lot of people might feel that Bert is a little rough around the edges as far as, but one thing about I can say about her heart is, you would not believe how her heart is a heart of gold. Her heart is a heart of gold. She is the only person that ever paid me for my videos.
I might pay you this time.
You see, ever paid me for my videos. Now, she's about like me and all. We live one day at a time, and money is scarce or whatever the deal is. But if she does have it, she'll slide me a little something and all. At least when I come here and all, and for different things like that. So she has a heart of gold. And I can say that about her. And I can say this also, too. Whenever I've come to New York and all, she's always made it almost like an entourage, just like I was a king of Spain or somebody. I'm just saying, well, whatever. Well, king of Africa, he ain't gonna get no juice. You know how that is. He do good to still be living. But I'm talking about, as far as the way the white man treat him. But I'm saying, you know, it's always been an entourage and stuff when we travel all over the place. And she's always made it welcome, as well as the Sister Myra here that opened up her house to me also, too, that
somebody that's got an extra room sometime when these speakers come in, we want you to...
Well, the good part about having a speaker to come in, you get the dibs on the question and answers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people, that's the good thing. So sometimes when you have a speaker to come in and all, you get them all by yourself and all. You see what I'm saying? And you get to lecture yourself and all. It's just like, you know, having a actually live-in slave, you know, and you get to do what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's the good part about having the speaker and all. You see what I'm saying? So anytime somebody comes to town and all, and they need a place to stay, if they're not so uppity that they have to stay in a hotel. You know, you see, that's the benefit of having them to come stay. And that's one thing that Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they said even when he was in town, when Honorable Elijah Muhammad was on the scene, they said he always would stay at several people's houses. And I've stayed in hotels, but basically you stay at people's houses and stuff. For one thing, it's this good social function among the people that you say that you are actually care about. No. The other thing is if you stay at if you stay at a hotel, hell, you might have to fend for your own damn food. You stay at a person's house and stuff, if they eat, they know sometimes they got to cook you something also too. You see what I'm saying? So it's a good way of saving what little money if you want it, or money you won't have to spend nothing and all. So that's one good thing about it also too. But I make it a point to try to stay at most people's houses when I go and speak and all, because I like the hospitality. And the key to all of this is to always stay humble and never literally think that you're special because you got knowledge and teaching people's knowledge. The magic behind that is the knowledge is not my knowledge to give to you. You got to understand the way things go. This knowledge is our knowledge. We wrote this knowledge before we went to sleep, before we died. Because we know anything. If you know anything about reincarnation, you come back over and over again. So we understood that we would be going into slavery and going into this left for brain dead in the Western Hemisphere. So we prepared everything for us. We prepared everything for us before that happened. You see what I'm saying? So, the knowledge is not necessarily the person who receives the knowledge. Is not necessarily that person's knowledge. This is all the original people's knowledge. So what happens is because we understand that we're all in this particular slave realm, everybody can't have a certain amount of knowledge and stuff, so they just pick a few people to be the custodians or would be the library for the mass of the people. So therefore, no one should ever think that they're special because they have this particular knowledge, because one thing about knowledge is it's supposed to humble you. You're supposed to be humble, because the ego, and we'll talk about that a little bit, the ego, the people with the largest egos are the most arrogant, is the most incomplete of us. If you'll find out, it's most people that you meet that's very arrogant and very egotistical, you'll find out that they have several pathologies, and they use the arrogance, so they use whatever type of degree, or what type of position, or what type of talent that they have to shield the pathology. See, this is a very pathological society, first of all. And this society is very pathological, and what happens is, when we get in things, we get into fraternities, when we get into jobs, we can find all kind of things to shield our pathology. So when America looks at you, when the society looks at you, well, this person is a very successful person. So this is the only society, or the Western society, basically, is the only culture on earth where your actual culture, your actual position in life can actually cover up how insane you are. So arrogance coincides with ignorance. The more knowledge you have, the more secure you're supposed to be, and it won't be no need to boast and to show someone that you are knowledgeable. If you see certain people that have to show you how smart they are, that's because they're wrestling with an inferiority on the inside in the first place. You see? And that's why it's interesting that it's very crucial at this particular time that you get the Gnostic scriptures. The Gnostic scriptures. Why the Gnostic scriptures? The Gnostic scriptures are the esoteric scriptures of the Bible. This is very crucial. This book is a must-read and a must-have in your library. It costs $29.95, $30. This is a must-have book because these are the Gnostic scriptures. The Gnostic scriptures, let me explain this. The esoteric part of Christianity, which is the exoteric, which is only a moralistic code based on social governing of a people to keep people in line, basically, that was needed in the Roman Empire. Okay. That is basically the opium of the masses, and basically it's something to govern, and it only gives you fragments, like I said last night, of the original knowledge, gnosis, which means divine knowing. So the esoteric version of Christianity is Gnosticism. The key is this would have been lost, but in Nag Hammadi, Egypt, in 1945, after they dropped the atomic bomb, they found the original Gnostic scriptures. The key is the Gnostic scriptures is dialectically different than the actual Bible, until in order to put it out, it took them almost from 1945 to 1977 to just release them, because the actual theologians had to come in and try to make it similar to that of what the later material of the Bible was to release it. Now what happened is this. What happened is this. In Rome, they needed a new religion because the simple fact that Romulus and Remus was not making it for them. They were on the decline. So they had inherited the Gnostic scriptures from the Greeks that the Greeks got out of Egypt. And so therefore, by them, because they had conquered Greece, so they went and took all of their particular scholars and even had some Jewish scholars to defect and start writing for the Roman government, Josephus. And they sat around and they said, well, we must take these Gnostic scriptures and translate them and make the New Testament. As a result, but they made the New Testament moralistic, fire and brimstone. You died and going to hell based on evil, to control the Roman attitude. So it's positive because the damn Romans was known for killing everybody in the world. So in order to control their particular people, these particular scientists knew that they had to give them moralistic code. But in the process of doing that, they destroyed the Gnostic scriptures that was brought out of Coptic Egypt by Greece. But the Gnostic groups of people, the Gnostic people, which is the group of black people from Egypt, was still living at the time. So what they did is they had to hunt them down, most of them, and kill them off. So it's like it's the same old story you see on anything, whereas you got an idea, you got the real thing. I'm going to plagiarize your stuff and turn it around so it can be politically a tool for politics for me. But in the context to make sure that nobody don't find the original scripts that would say that, hey, there's a lot more to this, I have to kill you off. So it's the same thing, you know, you steal somebody's stuff and then you kill them. See, it's mine. Well, that's what happened. But that's what happened, and they would have got away with it until 1945 when the Nag Hammadi text was dug up. But then they held on to most of it up until 1977, and then you had the Nag Hammadi library. But now the new revision of this, which one of the guys that worked on the Gnostic scripts in 1977 is Bentley Layton. Bentley Layton, the Gnostic scriptures by Bentley Layton. Yeah, ancient wisdom for the new age. Ancient wisdom for the new age. And so we're going to be uncovering a lot of that this time, because that's very important at this particular time that we deal with that. Here's another one. Jung in the Lost Gospels, because Carl Jung purchased 1/2 of the Gnostic scriptures that was dug up at Nag Hammadi called the Yun Codex now. Anyway, it's by Stephen H. Holier, Yun and the Lost Gospels, Insights into the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Nag Hammadi Library. It's a $10 book, $10.95, put out by Quest Books. There's another one also called the Yun. It's called Yun or Young, the Lost Gospels and the Seven Sermons of the Dead. It's called the Gnostic Yun and the Seven Sermons of the Dead. And we'll go into this tonight also too. But in a few minutes. Now, what I wanted to say also about the brother Juju, which was a particular person that was born. I think he's 52 now. Anyway, he was born basically on another plane, whereas basically he was in between dimensions, so therefore it wasn't like your regular psychic that would have to actually tap into. He was basically on two planes, so therefore he was living with the actual ancient people that we call the hierarchy and living on earth at the same time. So all his thoughts are basically channels. He talks in this way 24 hours a day. So therefore he might say something and he talks in code. And he'll say something and we might not even understand it until a year later. But also too, there's a different energy. He mentions that there's a different energy that's going on out west at this particular time that is not necessarily a healthy energy. Because most black people are on the East Coast. And also too, because you got to realize that although we do know that New York is one of the places that basically had great massacres of the Native Americans also, but we also know that whole Western thing also. You see, which basically was the last frontier to actually kill them off. So how the West was won is a celebration of the white man killing off the doggone Indians. So there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy out there that's kind of disproportionate, and the energy would be this way also too. But you got more brothers and sisters or more indigenous people in the West also. In the West also. So tapping into this, getting out of this moral code. The mystery system that we talk about, and we have to stress this because this is killing people. The mystery system that we talk about had nothing to do with moral code for the simple fact that the people that was practicing it was just like the animals. The animals don't need no damn book to be what its nature is. So we're talking about a matter of nature. The only time you need moral code is somehow something got out of hand and a person's nature is not that nature of the whole planet, not the same nature of either the animals, which follow their own nature, which is almost accurate, and the original people, providing they're not indoctrinated, that follow their nature also. So therefore, that would be the need of moral code. But what we're talking about here is every day in your life, you must break this spell of thinking that everything is based on how you behave. Good behavior has nothing to do with original gnosis and the ascension to the higher level. It's energy, and you were born with that particular energy. And the more you tap into that energy and throw off the shackles of what we would call the petty world, which would be basically detailed rituals and detailed cultural nonsense. That is, this baggage that was put on 2,000 years ago of lesser groups of people who didn't have a cultural background in spirituality, which would be the Europeans, basically, and all these particular customs that they have now have nothing to do at all with spirituality whatsoever. The main key is these customs are very important to them because they have to deal with things outer, because inner is lacking. So that's why their spiritual world is based on outer. And if you're dealing with things outer, then basically most of the time you got to deal with how you behave, what you wear, what you eat. But if you're dealing with things inner, you will find out that man is imprisoned in an inferior vessel. And that's the mystery of Christ being nailed to the cross. Man is imprisoned in an inferior vessel that we'll go into also too. Dealing with the moral code, I want to read something of the angel Awas that I also talk about. The channel, Awas is nothing but an ancient form of the god Heru, that channel the holy books of the Thelema as well as the book of law to Aleister Crowley in 1904. in the book of law, I think the holy books in 1919. But I want to read like a paragraph of what he says here. It says, I am the Lord of initiation, Amen. Because if you understand Amen, which is the hidden God, Amen means hidden, and Ra, it means the hidden son, Ra Heru Kahudi, which is another form of the Christ child Heru, or the Christ God Heru. It says, I fly alight as a hawk, which is the hawk, Mr. Heru, and of the mother emerald are the mighty sweeping wings. I swoop down upon the black earth. You see, I swoop down upon the black earth, and they're not talking about the earth, they're talking about the black people on earth. I swoop down upon the black earth, and it gladdens, and it gladdens, the earth is glad, and it gladdens into the green of my coming. They are happy that he's coming. This is an end time type of apocalyptic type of an apocalypse doesn't mean disaster as much as it means end time events, which also has disaster. Thank God to that. And the children of earth rejoice exceedingly, for your salvation is at hand, and the end of sorrow is come. You know, that's the way they talk, is come. I will ravish you away with my utterable joy. I will kiss you and bring you to bridal. Anytime you talk about bridal, that's talking about alchemy, where you have certain alchemical components in your body merging with the other components of your body, because the universe is inside your body, and you have this particular energy, the kundalini and the black dot, and the fire and the whole merge of this sacred marriage that it talks about. I will spread a feast before you in my house of happiness. Then this is the key. I am not come to rebuke you. I am not come to rebuke you or enslave you. I bid you not to turn from your voluptuous ways and all your follies, all your illness and from your follies. I bring you pleasure and peace and laughter and wisdom to your folly, or your folly. So, all ye do right to be is to enjoy it. Now, what I mean by that is, this is trying to show you a higher form of knowledge or gnosis that is meant for us. That means that it has nothing to do with the way you behave. Why? Because based on behavior, none of us will illuminate if it was based on behavior. Because as a man thinketh, so is he. So therefore, we always have these particular thoughts, and you'll continue having these thoughts on the lower realm. So based on behavior, no one could ever illuminate or go to the higher level. So therefore, they're talking this because that is the curse that we have. The curse that we have is we have a certain energy given, a certain energy field will rise automatically. But that energy can be shut down based on the way we think, and thinking that we are less than who we are, and thinking that we are wretches. Like the Bible says, a wretch like me. You see what I'm saying? And thinking that we are wretches, so therefore you limit your capacity just on the doctrine that comes that says that you are inferior. Whereas in the Gnostic scripture, you are the other way around. The angel, the God that creates the earth, later on finds out that the man that he has created, by not with the help of the hierarchy, because this is a lower subordinate being, angel, the man that he has created, by some mishaps or some way that he didn't know, Sophia comes down and put the energy that he should have had into the man, and the man becomes superior over this particular God, the supreme being. The God that is a jealous God. Why is he jealous? He is jealous because he understands that the particular man on earth has the goods over him. Now this has so what we're talking about the God that's higher than him is the unknown God, the sun behind the sun, the child of the mother, the star system Sirius is the light or the astronomical vehicle of this particular God. But the one that you worship, the one that created the earth, is a subordinate being who is called the supreme being, Jehovah, a subordinate being. So the reason, and this is in all cultures, the Egyptians talk about it, the Dogon talk about it, and even in the book of Enoch that they didn't add in the New Testament talks about it, and to the Gnostic scriptures, which is the esoteric counterpart, gives you the complete background that they dug up in 1945. That we'll go back in and question and answer also too. That we'll go back in and question and answers too. So therefore, by the great mother Sophia, the great mother Sophia comes in, and the great mother gives the man on earth the power over this particular being, that one day this man on earth would overthrow this particular being. And the word woman or woman gives way to human. So human is a derivative of woman. Is a derivative of woman also. We'll give you some bibliography on that also too. Also coming out of the actual Gnostic scripture. So we want to get into a little bit of hard copy, and then, you know, as we always do, we'll get into a little bit of hard copy, and then we'll go into some other things that we dealt with also. So now, in the hard copy, and you know the hard copy is the things that's happening all over the earth at this particular time. And the hard copies that we understand at this particular time that, first of all, like I told the people in Philly the last time I was there, is crystallized water is a thing that you should look into drinking. And basically what you do is that you just take any crystal and put it in the bottom of your water. And you put a crystal in the bottom of your water, the crystal immediately crystallizes the water and gives you energy to drink that water. If you have children, I would suggest you just put the crystal in the bottom of your glass and then drink it like that. But if you don't have children, you can also put the crystal in the bottom of a plastic jug, and then you can crystallize the whole water. But you know, children, you know, you run a chance of them swallowing the crystal because they swallow nickels and clothespins and everything they get their hands on. So crystallized water is a thing that we also talk about, that we talk about this is very needed at this particular time, that you should also deal with. I want to talk about also, I want to get this on tape because the last time I talked at Reverend Valentine's up here, this particular part got cut off. And so by it being cut off, we need certain things documented. So Sister Burt brought it to my attention to put this on tape. And that is the murder of Sheikh Anta Diop. The murder of Sheikh Anta Diop. There's certain ways of getting certain information. First of all, if you just understand the science, that what happened was Diop came to the, and for those people that don't know that Diop to get his particular works, number one, they had a close eye on Diop from the get-go, because Diop in his book African Origins, Myth or Reality, talked about the Tamahu. I think in chapter 10 or whatever you were looking, he talked about the Tamahu. He just left that missing page out, the missing page out of the creation of the white man. He left this particular missing page out. Now, for remember that Champollion is the one that wrote the 13 letters back to his older brother Champollion the Elder. Now we even got further information from the black Egyptologist, the sister Makembe Quetty. Is that her name? What's the Maketi Wimby. Yeah, I got it backwards here. Maketi Wimby. That also said that based on what she has learned is that even Champollion could not basically decode the Rosetta Stone, that it was a black man that helped him, because they could not understand certain linguistics and phonics, but the black person, being spiritual, could automatically tap into things, although he might have never known about hieroglyphics or metaneta. So they don't let you know that it was an actual black man that helped them, and it was the black person that actually literally taught them how to break the codes. And as usual, just like throughout all the part of the from slavery on up, the white man gets the credit. You see what I'm saying? The white man gets the credit. And sometime, if you're ever in Detroit, Michigan, you need to visit Wayne State University if you can get somebody to get you up in there, because Wayne State University is very important, because Wayne State University has the most amount of black people to go to a non-all-black college because this is basically a regular white college, but there's a huge influx of black people go there because there's not a black college in Detroit. So Wayne State has a big student enrollment of black people, but if you ever go there, they have drawers, just literally drawers of files of all the stuff that was stolen from black people that we invented. And based on that particular information at Wayne State University, damn near everything that you can think of is basically stolen from black people.
That's right, Jack.
You see what I'm saying? Basically stolen from black people. But we find this out, that even Champollion, who got credit for it, really didn't break the keys on that. You see what I'm saying? Really didn't break the keys on that. Also, I told you that the father of metaphysics was the guy, H.P. Randolph, that actually, PB something, I think it's H.P. Randolph, that new President Lincoln went to the pyramids and was a world-renowned scholar. As a matter of fact, there's a book out now called The Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor. Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, big thick book put out by Samuel Weiser. And in that particular book, this particular Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, they have a picture of H.P. Randolph in it in his life story. And also he was a contemporary that taught Madame Blavatsky her particular information. You see what I'm saying? So he is attributed to the original father of metaphysics. It's hard to find his works, although you still can find the book Sex Magic that was put out by Magical Child up here, but you can still find it. I think it's still being printed. It's one of his particular books. But I do know his life story is in that particular book, Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, which was this particular group, all spin-off of the Rosicrucians, and they actually had this brother also in it. But getting back to Diop, Diop was one of the people that also knew about the Tamahu, which is the created white man. Not only did he know about the Tamahu, which is the created white man, he found some bones and some fossils that could also dismiss and link that the white boy talk about, but it didn't have a damn thing to do with us because we were the Nephilim that came down, those who had come down, but it also had a lineage of dismiss and link based on this particular European. And so therefore, I think he was getting ready to break this particular information to the world, because he had found his element that he couldn't find in his contemporaries in Europe or his contemporaries in Africa, that he found this element in the United States of black people at this particular time that was ready. So when he spoke at the King Center in Atlanta in 1986, you know, right after that he died. And that's because they literally poisoned him on the plane. And he died on the plane. So they called his wife to come to the airport, and when she got there, they said, you can do two things. Either you can die with him, or you can go home and shut your mouth, and we can announce a month or whenever after that this man is dead. And by the way, give up all his papers to the French government. And that's why she gave up the papers to the French government. But he was killed. He was killed. Also, but it wasn't nothing that wasn't already published in the book Astro Body, A.E. Powell's Astro Body. In a section called The Human Artificials, there's a section where they talk about the origin of race, and it also links the European with the ape. But he gives a footnote, to go to Blavatsky's Secret Doctrines, and also to Blavatsky's Secret Doctrines, and in there she talks about the ape. You can get two books, the A.E. Powell, the Astro Body, which is a must read, which should be a Bible. A.E. Powell, the Astro Body, and also C.W. Ledbetter's book, The Astral Planes. C.W. Ledbetter's book, The Astral Planes. These are books that also you should understand the astral body just to try to understand the other realms of the invisible. The other realms of the invisible. There's another book that the Yoruba, most of the Yoruba priests use, and it's called the Spirits Book. It's called the Spirits Book. All I know is put out by Samuel Weiser, and it's called the Spirits Book. I can't think of the author's name, and he has another book called Mediums. It's one of the chief books that the Babylon use, and it's written by a European, but it's one of the best books on how the actual spirit realm works. It also was one of the books that was used to make the movie Ghost. When they wanted to get a certain information from the movie Ghost, they used that Spirits book, and the second book is William's book. So it's very key that you get those books, you see. But it's very key. Everybody should have A.E. Powell's Astro Body and C.W. Ledbetter's Astroplane, as well as C.W. Ledbetter's Hidden Life of Freemasonry. His Hidden Life of Freemasonry. Very key that you get that book, because that book actually shows that the Masonic robe came from the Egyptian robe, which later on you understand that the Celt, the Scottish Celt, which came from also the Scottish Rite and the whole Egyptian robe also too, that they just took it and fused it in their particular fabric of the Highlanders, which get the movie Highlander that deals with Sean Connery teaching the Highlanders, I am an Egyptian, which leads to the gypsies, who are the bastardized children or the leftover children of the Moors. And gypsy means Egyptian, which also links the Egyptian with the Moors. You see what I'm saying? So also you can also order Lieutenant Colonel A.E. Powell's book Solar System, which they put pressure on most book companies that cannot print it. They can't print the solar system. There's several things up in there on the European that they don't want anybody to know. So no major book companies can print it, because the Theosophical Society adds pressure and brings suit because they own the particular information. But the outprint book company, Health Research, out of California, they print the book Solar System by A.E. Powell. And the way they had to get it, they had to literally go in somebody's library and take the book. So the Solar System, very key book. But going back to Sheikh Anta Diop, he also had this particular information on the Tamahu, which you can get in his African Origin of Civilization, Myth or Reality. But there's one missing page of Champollion's work that you can find in Gerald Massey's book in the beginning, volume 1, page 27, which is the actual part on the Egyptian wall of the temple of Seti I that was removed later on, that gives you the races of men, and it tells you that the white man is a created man, and both the Ruti and the Suti created the Tamahu. That has been removed, and since then the temple has been torn down and rebuilt, which they completed in 1982. But if you get you can get any Dr. Ben books, and you'll see the newer temple. But you could also get the travelers, the Renaissance and the travelers in Egypt of the 19th century, and a picture of the original temple, and it's totally different. Now, how can a temple stay hundreds of years, and by the time Napoleon comes in, it's one of the most intact temples, but by 1982, it's in shambles, because the temple had too much in it that they had to remove. And Champollion, he wrote back to his brother, he said, I'm so disappointed on what I found in also the tombs of Ramses V and also the temple of Seti I, which focused on race at that particular time, because this is actually the most holiest place in Egypt, which was called the First Holy Land at Abydos. You see what I'm saying? At Abydos. Also, I give a whole history of that in my tape, Egyptian Mysteries, put out by Clemson Brown. Which you have any of those?
Is that the one from the Slave Theater? No,
not. This is one where I was at Clemson Brown home, and I actually had the actual pictures.
I got that tape.
If you get that tape is I go into the entire history. So Sister Hatshepsut has a particular tape put out by that. It's the Egyptian Mysteries that they go into that particular information. But they killed Diop because not because of civilization of barbarism. Why would the French government asked for Kelly's wife, we want this particular stuff back, when Civilization of Barbarism is already printed, or already on the way of being printed? That meant it was some other information. Just as the information by Alan H. Gardner, the grandfather of Martin Bernal, that wrote a book called Abduction Extraordinaire, taken from the Hieratic Papyrus of the British Museum. The Abduction Extraordinaire that never got to the Atlantic, got across the Atlantic, and was always in French. It talks about above Egypt abnormal people. Above Egypt abnormal people. The reason why I'm privy to this particular information is because, like I said, and I said many times, they sent a book of papyruses to the theological cemetery, International Theological Cemetery in Atlanta, Georgia. By them not knowing what they had, they sat on this particular book for 20 years. But when we became back into our particular knowledge and the Afrocentric movement started back up, the Emory University went in and stole the book from Woodruff Library, which is in the AU Center. So I went to Emory and stole the book from them. Stole the book from them. Which is a research book never meant to be sold to the public by H.T. Baldy. But in this particular book, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to print the book my damn self and sell it on the Xerox thing. But in this particular book, they also have the keys to homosexual papyruses, as well as the contentions of Horus and Set and all. And basically what they're talking about here is this particular book is dealing with, the mythology is dealing with the nature of a people on the earth that is not human. That they call it the spittle, that they tore out the mother's womb side and he's the spittle, and he's not all the way human. And also it's dealing with that particular information, as well as I will read to you, as well as the British Museum that I'll read to you, as I did many times, the Heretic Papyrus to the British Museum, where it tells you on it's 5,000 year old papyrus, where it says, it shows the idea of the barbarians. They live in a miserable part of the world. The water supply is wretched. That forces them to lead a nomadic existence. Although the ways of communication is poor because of the mountains and the forests. Hence they have a restless nature and always grumbling, because at that particular time they could not talk. Ruins of empires, born in ruins of empires tell you that we even had to teach them how to speak. They're always grumbling, and they cannot finally be defeated since the time of Horus. However, because they are so treacherous, they do not openly announce the day of battle, which means that they're just basically, a lot of this is sociological and psychological that you can apply to different various aspects of life. Like thieves, they shun a united army. In the Egyptian Book of Dreams, the characteristics has followed that are sets enumerated. Now, in the Egyptian Book of Dreams, the only Egyptian Book of Dreams that's left around that is printed in Bob Breyer's book, Egyptian Magic. Bob Breyer is the one that recently mummified the body on National Geographic. Bob Breyer, so he prints a part of the Egyptian Book of Dreams, but this particular part is not in it. In the Egyptian Book of Dreams, the characters of the followers of Set is enumerated. This particular Set type, and the one that they're talking about here, is the Set type and the slayer of Osiris, which is the prototype of Satan. It is surely not going to. It is surely not by chance that we find the word Asiatics in this corrupt passage. Now remember, they were called the miserable Asiatics because there was no Europe at that particular time, and excuse me. I got to slow down. I get happy and all, and then I have to slow down and find my line and stuff. In Asiatics in this corrupt passage, it may not be going too far to suppose, according to the Book of Dreams, that the followers of Set are typical foreigners. Foreigners are Sethian people. Their sexual conduct is reprehensible because they're asexual. They are given to drink and quarrelsome and murderous. They will indeed not reach the west, but they will land in the neither world. The west, which means the sun rises in the east and the end time sets in the west. But the neither world is talking about a lower astral plane. You see what I'm saying? The lower astral plane also. So we do have this particular, and I think I've held on to it long enough to actually go in and print the particular book out. So what I'll do is I'll give it to somebody and let them have the task of printing it out and all, and then we'll just sell them as it is and all, and you can actually study that also too. So I just study that also too. So now also now we're dealing with some things as when we're dealing with this about the, and I started telling you about this the other week. Other day about them patenting DNA. They putting patents on DNA. In this archaeology magazine, September, October, the quest for DNA. tracking modern human origins and the fingerprinting the pharaohs and the queens. So they're also talking about this particular DNA patterning, or also the quest for DNA. In this particular one in Archaeology magazine. Now remember now, in research, if the magazine is off the stand and you can't get the magazine, you basically just go to your local library, and they always have stuff on microfilm. And you microfilm it and then you print it out. You understand? So this is ways you can also get things also too. And I was using the bathroom in Delilah's house, and she had this in the bathroom and all, and that's how I was able to find it. Also able to find it. So they killed Diop, which is very interesting. Also, like I said, that Michael Jackson, and I mentioned this at Reverend Valentine, but we want to put it on the tape. We want to document a good tape because I was cut off the other week and wasn't able to finish it. So for the last night and the night, we'll make up the 2 sets, and I need to document certain things that I said. But like I mentioned at Reverend Valentine, that Michael Jackson basically, when he did his skin peel, the acid peel, anyone knows if you peel your skin, the melanin will grow back, and the spots will be even darker than what they used to be. That's like people used to take the amber and the archery and put on their face, the bleaching creams, and then when the sun hit them, they became blacker than what they were before they got bleached out. So what happens is, in order for Michael Jackson to remain white, the doctors with laser surgery went in and basically, and I don't think that he knew what was going on, and they basically lasered his pineal gland so it wouldn't secrete melanin. And they altered it. And basically with laser does a lot of burning and melting. So if you know anything, if you was to get something was to hit your head the right way, and something if you got burned in your head, if those pores are slicked over, it will never produce hair anymore. You can't grow hair anymore there. So it's the same thing with the pineal, or any type of thing that's slicked over, it becomes like a cast. You see what I'm saying? And you won't be able to actually produce anything. So basically they lasered his pineal gland, and that's the reason why he can't produce melanin, and so now he's worse than the European. He can't go in the sun at all. You see what I'm saying? Can't go in the sun at all. But it also just goes to show you how far this beast is going, and also too. Now I also talk about in the Crowley mythos that you talk about 418, which is 1 plus 4 plus 8 is 13, and 13 is a lucky number for black people. There's also in the Crowley mythos, and if you study any of the stuff, the number 718, which might I add got to be pretty spiritual, for the simple fact that 718 is also the area code for what? Brooklyn? And the Queens? Brooklyn, Bronx, and Queens. You see what I'm saying? So that's very interesting. But 718 is another word for the union of melanin also. The melanin also. We'll get into the metaphysical versions of what that actually means. What that actually means also too. Yeah. So what that actually means too. So now it's dealing with some other stuff. The movie Lady Hawk. The movie Lady Hawk is a movie that needs to you need to study also too, because in there you will see the hawk. And also you will see a black dog that also represents the form of Anubis, and the hawk also represents a form of Heru. Anubis is also in some mythos the same warner of Tahuti, which comes before I
don't want to interrupt. I just want to talk outside for a minute.
Okay, well I'll tell you what we're gonna do. Sister Bert, this brother came down to see me. It's something important he needs to say to me, so I just want you to take right quick, so I take a little pause so I can go and speak to the brother. We take a little break because it's very important that I see the brother before he leaves. Yeah. You know the deal. You must ride. Hey man, what's up? You see them move back?
Why are you going so black? We can't get this light right.
Well, is it gonna be black? Let me see. Ah, look.
Now, how you gonna see it? You over here.
Turn around. Let's see. Oh.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Not too bad.
Well, maybe that's because the huh?
Cut off this one and see what happens.
No, that's what I was doing. Remember, that's what I did before.
Let me see. Now cut off this one.
It's right next to you.
Right there.
Okay. No, that's even worse. That's the problem. Ain't enough light up here. Maybe you need to bring that closer.
Or maybe you need to come out this way. No, you need to bring that light closer.
Okay, yeah. Just go ahead and take all that, sis.
Don't forget y'all can get these.
I think everybody.
We'll explain it to you later.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you put that light in here,
I think my only problem is
you gotta bring that closer to him.
it's kind of bad. I see now. I never really lectured during Christmas time, and I see now it's a bad. It's really a.
Omen, right?
Well, it's actually a bad time. I'm not talking about this. I'm just saying, closer to Christmas, people ain't,
Yeah.
people still go to that old Christmas shopping and stuff, So therefore, I see that the crowd is not like it was last night,
No.
and we know the reason why. You see what I'm saying?
There's supposed to be some other folks that's supposed to come in here.
Yeah. Well, maybe, let's see. Well, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Now it's got a line in this straight down the middle. What's that?
That's from above.
Yeah, it is. Light bulb. Yeah, that's cool. Hey.
There a handsome guy should be
Yeah.
standing there.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Whatever.
Just say my melanin kicked in on this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait a minute, I'm going to...
Okay, you ready?
Okay, at least the camera. Oh.
Okay.
What you do with the thing?
Okay. Let me know when you're ready to go.
You good, though. You good.
I'm ready now? Okay. Okay. Also, like I said, dealing with this new thing on the way they're going to do things on, the way they're getting ready to do things, with this welfare. With this welfare is, the catch is, first of all, based on this particular welfare bill, you don't really know what's in it. They will read the first page to you, and you will think that's the welfare bill. Because a bill this thick, no way they're going to read it to you on TV in a news spot. So basically you don't know, and based on the way laws are, basically the states can cut it out any day. So it don't have to be 2 years. They will get that past Congress, and they will get that past you. You see what I'm saying? So you don't riot in the streets. And you saying, yeah, it's good, we need to revamp the system, but where it is, they can cut out things and people can be more homeless. You see what I'm saying? Also, they say they will give new jobs, but also in the new jobs is a catch-22. The new jobs will not give you full time. So if they don't give you full time and you don't get 8 hours and stuff, you can't support anything anyway. So therefore, you shit out of luck also. So it's very key that we understand that with this, that we might be seeing a lot more homeless now. Hell, since the Reagan era, they have produced the biggest homeless population since the Depression. So what can you think about it when they cut out welfare? You see what I'm saying? And like I said also, because they can take some of the actual poor whites, because like I said, they need those particular people for body parts anyway. So like I said last night when we were also talking about the concentration camps. So poor whites is just like Negroes. They just shit out of luck. You see what I'm saying? So when they say, well, it's mostly white people on welfare, that doesn't matter. The amount of black people that they can catch, you see, based on per capita, there's a lot of people. So it's very key that you understand that particular information that's going on. Now, one thing about this particular O.J. Simpson trial is there's a war going on between black and whites. But the war is going on spiritually because you're getting ready to get out of this. Doesn't necessarily have to be fought in a revolutionary style. It's being fought out in the courts. just as it will be fought out, they talk about in the contendings of Horus and Set, and also the contendings of Horus and Set, and also this particular book that I have here. This particular book that I have is called the Osirian Myth. This is coming from the University of Detroit, of Michigan, and it's called the Osirian Myth. And in here they have a particular court case and a trial that they would say that would be the biggest trial in world history. So when it comes down to us, because you're thinking of the mythology, you don't see the actual trial as it comes on. So they said that this particular trial, based on the Osirian myth, there will be a trial in the end time that will be bigger than any trial or anything that anybody could ever imagine. We know that that is the O.J. Simpson trial. So it's the trial of a mentor. But the only beautiful part about that is this. In the mythos, when the trial starts, it's at the end of the world, and it's at the great judgment. So it's the same great judgment that they talk about in the Bible, but it's not in this poetic, mythical form of the way you think it, the sky opening up and person sitting on a cloud. Things register right here before our eyes, and we see these particular things. And we, by us not actually understanding adequate mythology, because basically we study one mythology, the Bible, or we study the major world religions that does not contain enough gnosis, divine knowing or knowledge, to give you the adequate amount of knowledge to see things right before your eyes. But anytime they come on TV, on the Charles Grodin show, and they're asking for this man's death, they want him to kill himself. You see what I'm saying? This is amazing. They blew up a whole building last year, 2 years ago, and you don't hear anything about it. Take down planes and kill up people, and you don't hear nothing about it. 2 people get killed. You understand? And they can't live without it. And this is based on the war and based on the psychology of the white man, and this whole thing is coming out because it's spiritual. It's very spiritual, you see. And if you read between the lines, you can understand this stuff as well as, you have a Barnes & Nobles up here, right? Go to Barnes & Nobles, or you can ask them, there's a book company in Atlanta or in New Jersey called Gramercy Books. They put out out-of-print books. They put out out-of-print books. Or they reprint old books. Now, in order to get a hardback version of Burge's Book of the Dead, when I checked in New York in 1990, they were about like $300 to get one. So this Gramercy Books back in 95 started printing, 95, printed the Book of Coming Forth by Day, the original volume of Burge's with all his notes in it, in 95, and it's a hardback version, and you can get it for $13. Now that's key because they print books, and these books are budget books, but they're printed new. So Gramercy Books, and get the E. Wallace Burge, the hardback version. You can go to Barnes & Nobles, usually sell them, and basically Colossal can order some for you, and they're only $13 for a big thick particular Book of Coming Forth by Day. And in one of the sections in the introduction, they actually talk about this great court trial, or this great court case. Also in the book From Fetish to God, Ancient Egypt from Fetish to God, in this particular book by E. Wallace Burge, you can also find the court case, this great court case, this judicial court case, in the section of the papyrus called the Contendings of Horus and Set. And they will also deal with the court case in there too. Now, it's not going to so much look like the O.J. Simpson verdict if you don't understand mythology and how mythology works. But it is definitely the O.J. Simpson verdict, because I studied it about a month. All of the different papyruses, I studied it about a month in the fall of 95, right after the verdict, or right before the verdict, So that's very key. But also, like I said, that Alfred Hitchcock movies, all of Alfred Hitchcock movies the O.J. Simpson verdict was also a composite of several Alfred Hitchcock movies. Because in most of all of Alfred Hitchcock movies is always deal with a person that's innocent, but the entire country knows he's guilty. As well as to set they also set it up based on the domestic violence. So in order to set this particular domestic violence case up, they had to release the movie What's Love Got to Do with It a year before the murders. It came out in 1993. And then this came out in 1994, the actual murders, to get you sensitive to the O.J. Simpson trial, and also based on the research of Pearl Cleage's book, Mad at Miles, based on the domestic violence. And we're not condoning domestic violence, but we understand how the beast does things to make people sensitive to this. You have to look into the insights of whether there is domestic violence into the black community, because most white people don't really know of the social functions into the black community, but based on what the TV gives them. So all of a sudden they're going to make a black movie and it's about some negative domestic violence, which Michael Landon was an ultimate wife beater, as well as Leonard Nimoy. We talk about wife beaters that were so overwhelmingly brutal until the wives had nervous conditions that couldn't even hardly talk about it on TV. But they didn't make movies about those particular ones, Michael Landon, and they still can go on heroes. And as a matter of fact, Leonard Nimoy is looked on as a stature figure of great intellect and morality, because he is the voice behind Ancient Mysteries on A&E now, that carried over from the old insertion program. So he is looked on as a high figure, that they would have him as the narrator of Ancient Mysteries, Leonard Nimoy. You see, and he was also on NBC, carried it for a while. But they didn't make movies about him. So this movie about Tina Turner that they actually researched basically after Pearl Cleage's book, Mad at Miles, basically they set it up for the O.J. Simpson thing also too. It's very key we understand that, as well as the anniversary movie to the great movie that polarized black relationships in 1985 called Color Purple, done by a black author. The anniversary movie that was the 10-year anniversary of Color Purple in 1995 was the movie Waiting to Exhale, which to celebrate the 10-year anniversary, also done by a black author and female, to celebrate that also too. And basically, based on the movie, not only was there not a positive black man in the movie, see, it was a little different with Color Purple. Although they had the lesbian act going, you had some sympathy for Whoopi Goldberg being raped for her father, with the father, and the other girl being run off. But but unlike Color Purple, what we didn't realize, there wasn't a positive figure in the movie Waiting to Exhale at all. You see what I'm saying? At all. I mean, even the sisters, is the remedy to counter the man's pathology is for you to jump into bed with somebody's husband. You see what I'm saying? And so even though we say, well, that ain't so bad, but then again, we understand that this is the way the European and the whole world view us. So to jump into bed with somebody's husband is not the actual remedy. So Angela Bassett was one figure at one time when she slapped the hell out the white woman. But she was one figure you could sympathize with, but she went and jumped into bed with Wesley Snipes, who was all in love, and talked about how he held this white woman as the greatest thing in his life and put her on a pedestal. As a matter of fact, this white woman that he talked about was probably the greatest thing in the movie, the way he held her up. So the other sister, Gregory Hines, the one that Gregory Hines was with, the other sister that finally got a man after a rebound of her husband being a homosexual, but you say it was a positive thing, but hell, she was due for one. She had been in hell for damn near, like the other ones, they were new starting out in their hell. But she had been in the hell for about 15 years. So she was due for some relief. You see, so. So I'm saying when we look at this, and although, in Oprah, and they was talking about how they had all these waiting to exhale parties. But we got to understand, okay, yes, this is a bad thing that's going on in our community, but you got to understand the timing of things. Coming at the same time when black people are in crisis. You see what I'm saying? All over the world, but especially here in the United States, black people being in a social crisis and dying wholesale. They used to put something out like that. And remember, the white boy, when it deals with us in the movies, he always has an ulterior motive.
That's right.
And he didn't put stuff out because he was concerned with the welfare of black women.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? The same welfare that he's only viewed black women as hoes or big fat maids.
Right. Yeah.
And remember, Whoopi Goldberg, the reason why Whoopi Goldberg makes more movies than Angela Bassett and all those is because Whoopi Goldberg played a maid in 4 different movies. A long walk home, Clara's Heart, Karina, and this other one with this French guy, John. This French guy and the little white, she's taking care of this white boy, and he's got a hell of imagination. And she's the maid to this little white boy. So they make sure that they put her up because she represents the 1930 Hattie McDaniel type stuff, you see what I mean? And so therefore, this is the reason why she makes these types of movies, or they would make these types of movies, or she would get more roles. So you got to understand the pathology of the European. The European's pathology is he likes only 2 people as black. He likes young children, and he likes older people. Why? Because a young person does not pose a threat to him, and an older person doesn't pose a threat to him. But that young black male and female, between the ages of 15 to 50, poses a problem with him. And that's why Morgan Freeman starts getting all these roles. Or even the Danny Glover, when he's up in his 40s, get these roles. But any young, virile black man, you see, can't share the world stage with a Tom Cruise and those particular people because he knows about his sexuality and he feels inferior. And it's the same thing. White people in this day, you can see little white women and white men that just love a little black child. Oh, look at them. And they like an old black man or old black woman. They like those because those don't pose any threat. But God help a black person between those ages and stuff, you see what I'm saying? You need a job. You see, and all kinds of stuff like this, or you a common criminal. So these are things we got to understand the pathology of this particular European and how he does things, So, let's deal with some other things at this particular time. Let's see where we're going with this thing. Like I said, also, if you get the movie, I think the movie, one of the Alfred Hitchcock movies, they showed the court in England where they wear the white wigs, and I talked about that. And the white wigs also, their white wigs are always curly in the top, which also represents the Lamb of Christ with the woolly hair. But the judge's wig is all nappy. It's white to throw you off, because if you seen them with nappy wigs on, you would get it right off. But they show that it's all nappy. The judge's wig is all nappy to show that in actuality, ultimately, we are the judge. And it's dealing with the Osirian drama as well as the mysteries of the Lamb in the Book of Revelation, or Jesus, the woolly-haired. You see, Jesus the Lamb's wool in the Book of Revelation. So therefore, they understand that the Osirian drama as being the great judge. You see what I'm saying? The great judge. Oh, so now these are some things that I recapped. So what happened is I've gone to Philadelphia and I spoke, and there's a lot of things that you need to catch up with that we need to document for New York. You could have it on tape. And so I want to deal with these particular things right now as far as the music industry. Now, you made a good point when you said that now everything is oldies but goldies, which I enjoy. You see what I'm saying? Which I enjoy, but this post, and so sometimes when people say things, those are channels. See, it's something spiritual why you would even register that. And what she said, the Sister Myra here that I spent the night over to her crib last night, and that I've stayed at her house several times. As a matter of fact, I stayed at your place the first time in New York. But she made an observation last night. And I'm going to check it with the tarot cards right now to see if this particular observation is right. And first of all, I'm going to ask the tarot cards. First of all, let me ask the tarot cards. Newt, did the observation on the old music, or the old Gregorian music that Sister Myra said last night, was that adequate? Let's see what I get here. Okay, let me make sure I rephrase it. Let me make sure I phrase it right. Okay, yeah, you're right. The observation that Sister Myra made on the black music, the oldest but goldest, was that correct, Newt? Yeah, it was correct. Now let me explain what's going on. They understand by studying us that we have progressed through the years through our music. Our music is the only thing that acted as a medicine to keep us sane in an oppressive world. So, just as the music goes to certain levels, because they understand our music is metaphysical. And our original classic called jazz also started from voodoo, of the New Orleans Vaudou Society that fused in Vaudou rhythms into the same Sousa band music of the Europeans, where they just had this straight European marching band music, and they fused it, and they fused in this particular music, this Vaudou music, and made jazz. And based on that, jazz is also the focus of both funk, rap, because that's a form of scat, which is the bebop, on into any kind of music, as well as rock and roll. You understand? And also blues is also a form of that, which would be the essence of the soul part. So now the key is that the music would progress to a certain level. And it's the music that is metaphysical. So as a result, they cut out basically black music. As a matter of fact, since 1990, you haven't heard any new stuff. Because first of all, rap, although rap being an art form, rap is voice. But the music under rap is old sample music from the 70s.
60s.
And the 60s, or whatever they can get their hands on and speed up or whatever. So the key is, although rap is a fine art form for certain, but for the only thing that you hear on radio now is rap and a little bit of slow songs is ludicrous. You see what I'm saying? It's got to be a combination of several disciplines. And as a result, most of the stuff you hear now in the rap is old music. That they come out, they use a lot of, all this stuff. You say, when people say, this sounds so good, I'm like, well, I can't get into it. Why? I said, because I got that in my album collection. And I want to hear something new. Although I love old music, I'll go play the original version, which is better. So the key is, but there's no new music being made since 1990. Now the key is this. In order to not let you progress, if you have memories of the 70s, or memories of the music that was made back then, although it is positive, if the new music is coming out that's current on the radio is that of the 70s, and you're supposed to be going into the year 2000, you see what I'm saying? Then you're not progressing. And it can keep your mind on a certain level. Now it's interesting because Prince had a fight with the record companies because he wanted to produce the kind of music that he wanted to produce going into the 90s, but they wouldn't let him do it until he just got cleared. George Michael, who won the night, I'm using him as an example because he was one that battled with the radio station. Although George Michael was a white boy from England, he won the Soul Album of the Year 1988. But George Michael said that they also wanted him to stick with the Wham thing and stick with what sold at that particular time, but knowing in actuality if he didn't progress his music, they were stopping everybody that they had to battle with. And basically, all soul artists and stuff, basically in the 1990s, they just basically destroyed that particular music. Now, as a result, what has happened here is the music is stagnant right now. And basically, although the art form is good, but if you are anyone over damn 18 or over 25, it's good, but it's not enough. Because really, there's no good music out here. As a matter of fact, it gets to the point whereas it's actually annoying sometimes to even listen to things, you see what I'm saying? And it will give you a headache. And the reason why it will give you a headache is the simple fact that it is because in the recording studios, the major recording studios, there's a door, and they have a guard with a machine gun guarding that door. And that is because this is the actual place when you make your recording. When you make your recording, they go in and they put the undercurrent stuff up under there, that is stuff that is subliminal seduction that drives the black man and black woman crazy. And this is why you got killing and stuff going on. And if it's not killing, it's just negative attitudes and different things. And the reason why that is because they are using to program you through the music. You understand? So therefore, if you listen to any new music, and it don't have to be rap, it can be the slow stuff that's out now, because it's not really good slow stuff. If you listen to it, you can't take it, but so long, it'll give you a headache. What's that?
I just wanted to say, Bill Fulcrum says in terms of listening to the radio, anything less than 100 megahertz is antagonistic to our melody.
Right, so you know, and everything is set up that particular way. It's just like in Atlanta, the projects are painted with a high beige yellow. The projects. And knowing based on certain colors, although they might be beautiful in certain things, but to live in this high intensity yellow all the time, these colors are so violent until they tear you apart. And so there's several colors that they pick, just certain colors that they pick in most black places, like you said the welfare center. And they do that, and it's to drive you crazy. So but the actual projects in Atlanta are these high colors to drive you crazy. Especially in this particular time, because like I mentioned, the guy Olakun Olakun, you don't hear of Olakun, you hear of the 7 African powers, but you don't hear a lot of Olakun or Oshosis. But Olakun is the Yoruba version of Osiris that is chained down at the bottom of the ocean. Osiris is bound in the underworld. But Oshosi, the energy now that Oshosi has risen to a certain level, and actually they're saying that Oshosi has risen and is talking about energy frequencies that has risen now, and he deals with undercurrent thoughts. And so therefore you have people that used to hide their feelings to you, and it would take you to know them a while to understand that these people are no good. Now, when you meet these people, you can automatically tell when a person is no good. You see, you can't, because the undercurrent thoughts now, they can't hide them anymore. That is because based on the energy. So now you can tell, and basically a person don't have to talk. You can somehow look at people and say, I don't like you for some reason. And sometimes you might go, well, that's a bit prejudiced, a bit unfair, but that's your spirit saying things because based on energy alone. And also, that's also to ward out, to keep you to understand that in the particular fact that certain people that have bad dispositions, or they call obnoxious, they call it obnoxious syndromes deficiency. Those particular people, right away you can tell, and that's to warn you against those particular people, because that's the type of energy. What happens is this: when energy rises, it's just like cleaning out. You know, when you take a colon cleanser or certain medicine, you break out in rashes because your body is cleaning out. Well, the same thing, because frequencies is rising and your spiritual awareness is also rising, the negative awareness is also rising also. Because that has to come out. and it confronts you on things that you need to work with. Whereas before, there were certain pathologies that you might think that you were cool with, people that automatically tell you you're no good. So now these things are coming out, and these particular pathologies is showing you that you need to work with these particular shortcomings, pathologies, and deficiencies. And so this is why you have people now that's very depressed and feeling bad about themselves. That's because the latent ulterior motives cannot be hidden now based on the energy. But on the one tip is also, too, that you can pick up on these, too, if you're a person that's trying to go to the right level. And so now you meet people now that you say, I just can't deal with this particular person. And on the other hand also, too, because you have a high frequency, when you come across people that have lower frequencies, they can't deal with you. So therefore, you'll find out that you'll start losing more and more friends. Losing more and more people. People stop calling. You see, and basically, your own energy is filtering out the no good people around you in your life. Because seclusion is a joyous one at this particular time.
That's right.
It's a joyous one at this particular time because it means that you must stay secluded and to not deal with outside influences. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean staying in your house 24 hours a day, but we're talking about a way of life or mentality to be on your guard even when you're downtown. Check? Okay, so that's so based on the rock and roll and based on other things, they knew based on the Beatles, who were members of the OTO, which is the Aleister Crowley's society, as well as most of the British artists were members of secret societies. And the Beatles that put Aleister Crowley on their album Sgt. Pepper. As a result, the particular music and other music that came after it, like the Rolling Stones and other of the British invasion, tore the white man up inside to the point whereas the white man turned into a hippie and started rebelling against his racist ass past generation. And then the rise of the great Baudin King, Jimi Hendrix, that really killed him, who put him in altered states of consciousness, which is altered states of consciousness, and then they took him out by having the white woman suggest that he take the sleeping pills, the sleeping pills to go back, and she gave him a higher dosage. She was an agent for the British intelligence because Jimi Hendrix said, now I have done what I can do basically with the Europeans as far as the rock and roll. He basically taught everybody how to play rock and roll. And then they just started it after that and made it damn near devil music. But if you hear his, it's just another form of high blues. And so, another form of high blues. He said, I have done all I could do now, and as a result, I'm going back to America and hook up with my brothers and sisters, because remember, he was the Isley Brothers' cousin, and he was first playing in a blues band. So he said, I'm going back to America to hook up with my brothers and sisters so we can make even greater music. And as a result, the British intelligence said this man is not to ever leave England, and they took him out. But I think he somehow knew this because he wrote about it in his songs that he was going to die, as well as he wrote about the subterranean world, spaceships, and all of that. As a matter of fact, there's a book called Jimi Hendrix Star Child. It's put out by a black man. It's a metaphysical book. Jimi Hendrix Star Child. And in that particular book, he deals with Jimi Hendrix and his metaphysical beings. He used to meditate and all types of things. You see what I'm saying? And also was visited by beings of light. You see. So based on this, it got out of hand with them. And then Janis Joplin came up, and she was basically saying in actuality that basically she was a black woman. She was a black-white woman. I'm a black-white woman. You see what I'm saying? And say she used to dream of Aretha Franklin in dreams. Anybody ever heard Janis Joplin at all? She tried to sound real soulful. You understand what I'm saying? Then she got taken out. You see? Because she represented the later form of what Hendrix was doing You see what I'm saying? And as a result, once they took Hendrix out, took Hendrix out, Janis Joplin started hollering around the country, and they said, okay, first they separated her from the main group, and then she kept on, and as a result, they took her out. Because first she changed the country, then she went in folk, and then she went back to the soul, and by that time they took her out also too. So as a result, this particular music tore up the white structure. And by the time the 1980s rolled around, they had to bring white people back into what is called country music. So that's why the guy born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen, came out, and it's a borderline country, trying to get them back to a Jim Crow South type deal. And also John Cougar Mellencamp, borderline country. And now basically the white rock and roll is borderline country music now. Even all these new stars that come out, they have a country sound fused in with a rock sound. And that's to phase out any type of radical element that damn near turn their people out. And as a result, it worked so good until they froze this stuff until all the hippies that was running around with black people in the doggone 60s is now the state senators and also the freshman class of the Republican Party, these doggone conservatives. You see what I'm saying? These conservatives. And so, as a result, now, country music has never been mainstream in America. But now, Garth Brooks and them is selling millions of records that would never have done on the proportion of the Beatles and stuff. Randy Travis, Garth Brooks, Trisha Yearwood, and all these crackers. You see what I'm saying? They tried to countrify black music in the late 1970s when they chose the Commodores to make a series of country albums. And in 1979, they made this album, Walk On Down the Line, and they was debating whether it was a country album. But they put one of the country songs on the album, the Brick House album of 77. But they made a complete country album in doggone 79, fused in with soul. And then he left the group and they started writing for Kenny Rogers and stuff. Lionel Richie. And as a result, he became one of your biggest stars of the 1980s. But it didn't work for black people. You see what I'm saying? So then they went into urban cowboy with John Travolta, and black people started wearing cowboy boots and cowboy hats in the early 80s. All this was fused to try to bring about a Jim Crow or antebellum South and trying to bring people back to the American values, which to us, great American values is doggone totalitarianism, slavery, and oppression. To bring them back, and as a result, they elected the California cowboy, Reagan, to bring back this conservative type thing, to bring people back, and basically most white people, they worked it right back into what's going on now. This is very key to set the environment for racism that we have today. You see, to set the environment for racism that we have today. Very key. You got to understand this particular things that's actually going on here. So now let's deal with some other things right here that we're gonna keep on. So also, like I said, the movie North by Northwest is a great Illuminati movie that I also talked about. North by Northwest, which is a movie that you need to understand that's dealing with a certain amount of things. And that particular movie with Cary Grant and James Mason, which is also dealing with, Cary Grant had to fight against the Illuminati, and he also had to fight against the UN, which was one and the same. You see what I'm saying? Which was one and the same. Also, Malcolm made the mistake thinking that this new human problem and went to the UN, was saying he wanted to go to the UN. He didn't understand that the UN was started from the Berlin Conference where they carved up Africa, and is also the UN, and that whole thing of recolonization of Africa started, and the whole UN thing is all in one deal. John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben talks about that also too. And also there's a store right here in New York where you can go and get information on the Berlin Conference, on the Berlin Conference also too, which was the springboard for the actual UN. You understand what I'm saying? So that's very key that you try to next time deal with some Alfred Hitchcock movies. And as a matter of fact, that this AMC, American Movie Classics, as well as Cinemax. They're dealing a lot with Alfred Hitchcock movies at this time, because Alfred Hitchcock was a master mason of the secret societies. So the reason why he was one of the greatest movie writers, for the simple fact that, hell, he could just go into the archives of what the damn Illuminati was doing and pull out a lot of secrets. Also, there was a movie, the first part, to Cast the Deadly Spell, with the Necronomicon, but the other one, the name of that movie, the one with Cheryl Lee Ralph, Witch Hunt. Witch Hunt, it came out in it's an HBO movie with Dennis Hopper. It's called Witch Hunt. If you ever get your hands on it, it's an HBO movie, let's say 1994 or 1995. I think it's like 1994. So anywhere from 1993 to 1994, this movie called Witch Hunt with Dennis Hopper and Cheryl Lee Ralph and a woman named Penelope Ann Miller. Now in this particular movie, it talks about how Hollywood started using magic and voodoo to invoke spirits to somehow get a new atmosphere of magic to write better movies. And as a result, the magic was real hot in Hollywood. But what happened was, when it got out of hand and these white people started getting messed up, they blamed one black woman for it, and it's supposed to be Marie Nouveau, played by Cheryl Lee Ralph. Although she did beat the murder rap, or she did beat the rap in court, it all revolved around her in this particular magic that they tried to blame and all. So you need to see that particular movie, Witch Hunt, with Cheryl Lee Ralph and Dennis Hopper. And Dennis Hopper is playing H.P. Lovecraft, a detective, as well as the movie Cast the Deadly Spell, where Fred Ward is playing H.P. Lovecraft, and they're looking for this Grand Grimoire, this sacred book, which is actually the Book of Coming Forth by Day. The Book of Coming Forth by Day. Now there's new ordinance that's being passed all over the country. There's new ordinances being passed all over the country, laundering laws and stuff to lock up homeless all over the country. And a lot of laws are now being passed in Atlanta, because Atlanta is the new home of the Illuminati, because it's the home of the CDC and all. So a lot of laws are being passed in Atlanta. And so they got these ordinances, basically, that any bums being in public places can automatically go to jail. So now it's going to be, and it'll spread worldwide. And it will spread worldwide also, too. Also, like I said, that most states now are not part of the country. Most states now are their own country. Their own government and own country. There's no such thing as federal no more. Most of the states now, where the state is actually their own country. That's why California can break a certain laws for the O.J. Simpson trial and Proposition 209. Now, see, this is funny how Timothy McVeigh and them can blow up a building of people, and they haven't gone to trial yet in 2 years. Yet O.J. Simpson, when his wife died, he's already had 4 trials. He had the preliminary trial, the murder trial, the suit, and the custody trial. 4 trials, back to back. And Timothy McVeigh and the Unabomber ain't seen no action whatsoever. You see, this is very key, that can happen like that, because California is their own state, and it can make laws whatever. It don't have anything to do with federal. Very key that you understand that particular part also too. Also, either you can buy the Kabbalistic 777 by Aleister Crowley, or Goldwyn's Kabbalistic Dictionary. Goldwyn's a good one. I think it's Goldwyn's, isn't it? I think it's Goldwyn's or Goodwin's Kabbalistic Dictionary. Go into that and look at the Kabbalistic numbers of the number 209, which is the Proposition 209 based on affirmative action. You will find that the Proposition 209 and those particular, that 209 that they're talking about in there is actuality, is dealing with some metaphysical numbers and some Kabbalistic numbers. You're going to find out that most numbers are basically the white boy fashions most numbers around stuff that he gets out of the Holy Kabbalah, which is a numerical breakdown of the Hebrew alphabet. Good books to study that is the Aleister Crowley 777 in other Kabbalistic writings, as well as Golden's Kabbalistic Dictionary, which is a huge volume, and it shows you what all numbers are infinite and what they mean. So Proposition 209, you will understand that those particular numbers that they're talking about there has a spiritual significance with the rise of black people. With the rise of black people. Now, they have already started showing some of you that they have started killing people. The prison guards are now shooting prisoners for sport in the prisons. And they've showed this on TV now where the three black men standing in the courtyard and the prison guards shoot them down for sport because they have already started killing black prisoners also too. And that's very interesting. Now I want to get into some other things right now. I want to get into this because this is very interesting at this particular time. And let me see if I have my notes. If I didn't have my notes, I'll still just deal with it. The part I want to get into here is the mystery of Tarzan. Tarzan was dreamed of. I can't think of the author name right now. Remember the author name of Tarzan? No, not Lord Greystone. That was the mythology that he was dealing with. His name was I can't think of his name right now, but the author Edgar Rice Burroughs. Edgar Rice Burroughs dreamed of Tarzan. Now remember I quoted to you something about an 8 gene in the white boy being part 8. That's also mentioned in the A.E. Powell's Astro Body, and also if you get the 2 volumes of Madame Blavatsky's Secret Doctrines, which I think that if you got a library in your house, you should not go without having the Secret Doctrines or Isis Unveiled. They are encyclopedias of the occult and of the mysteries, and all. And so I think that you should buy both the Isis Unveiled and the actual Secret Doctrines because it gives you some adequate information on the Atlantis that the white boy won't tell you about, as well as Rudolf Steiner's Universe, Earth, and Man. You should have these books in your library. Rudolf Steiner's Universe, Earth, and Man, which gives you detailed Akashic Records account of the life that we used to live when we were in Atlantis. As well as another book, Rudolf Steiner's Cosmic Memory, which is detailed accounts of the life that we used to live when we were in Atlantis. These are must-have books. Rudolf Steiner's Cosmic Memory, Rudolf Steiner's Universe, Earth, and Man, and also Rudolf Steiner's Spiritual Hierarchies, as well as Blavatsky's Secret Doctrines, Isis Unveiled, A.E. Powell's Astro Body, and C.W. Ledbetter, Astro Planes, Annie Besant, Esoteric Christianity by Annie Besant, that even Dr. Ben mentions in his lecture at Georgia Tech. See, even Dr. Ben knew this occult stuff. Esoteric Christianity by Annie Besant, as well as the hidden keys, the hidden mysteries. Let's see, the hidden knowledge of the Bible, volume 1, 2, and 3 by Hudson. I think his name is Godfrey Hudson. Hidden knowledge of the Bible, volume 1, 2, and 3. These are books that you need to get. As well as C.W. Ledbetter's Hidden Life in Freemasonry, C.W. Ledbetter's Inner Life, and C.W. Ledbetter's The Hidden Side of Things. C.W. Ledbetter, The Hidden Side of Things. But dealing with this that you will find in Blavatsky's book, based on the 8 gene and based on information that she got, in that particular book, Edgar Rice Burroughs had a dream of Tarzan being an ape man. The dream that Edgar Rice Burroughs had was an archetype of a family genetic ancestry of the ape. And he was upset because he never wanted it to be just the ape man swinging through the jungle. But he wanted an ape man that was a brilliant and intellectual person, which he got that wish in 1984 of Tarzan Greystone. The Legend of Tarzan, Tarzan, the Legend of Greystone, Greystoke, excuse me, by starring Christopher Lambert. Yeah, Christopher Lambert is that particular one. He got that dream. But also, there's been over 30 or 40 Tarzan movies, TV shows, documentaries that's printed all the way up into 1996. And that is the reason it's the most celebrated mythology of the European, because it celebrates his ape origin, which we're dealing with genetic archetypes, which the cross between an ape, a pig, and human genes that makes up this particular information. You see what I'm saying? Also, another celebrated book, the one that's going to be hard to find, but the one that also speaks of the creation of the European, is Rudolf Steiner's Atlantis and Lemuria. Rudolf Steiner's Atlantis and Lemuria. But Edgar Rice Burroughs had an archetype and a dream of his ancestry, as well as Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, a dream of the creation of the European. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, that in 1984 they made a better version of it with Robert De Niro. Also, 1996, The Island of Dr. Moreau, dealing with H.G. Wells, which H.G. Wells was a contemporary of Rudolf Steiner. They were good friends. And so he read Atlantis and Lemuria and wrote The Island of Dr. Moreau, and the movie The Island of Dr. Moreau that deals with the creation of the white man. So when this movie was to be treated very careful, they ended up getting the greatest actor that the white man has ever known, Marlon Brando, to play Yakub, the Yakub story. Anybody saw the movie? The Yakub story. It's now on video, and it's a movie that's must rent because it shows the last product, which was Yakub's daughter, that she was the one that was the only one that had gone to the point where he had grafted these animal people up to her, and she was basically a white human. And they had one right before her who was a leopard skin or animal type boy, but he was human in the way he acted. But the daughter was the last product. You see, The Island of Dr. Moreau also is a must-have movie, as well as H.G. Wells' Time Machine. You see what I'm saying? A lot of knowledge dropped in H.G. Wells' Time Machine also too. But the Tarzan is very interesting at that particular time also too. So now the recolonization of Africa with Zaire and Rwanda situates the situation that they need a reason to go into Africa again. So therefore this whole destabilization with Rwanda is this particular situation, and they need a need to recolonize Africa. Because even in the book Ice, the Ultimate Disaster by Richard Newman, it has already been said that the secret society said that in the last days before it's all over, Africa will be the homeland of the remaining members of the European race. So therefore, the places that's the most richest, Zaire, Rwanda, those particular places is the places that they actually chose, as well as what's the guy, Idi Amin's place? Uganda, which they basically killed the majority of the people in Uganda. Most of the adults are dead, based on the AIDS thing. So based on that, in Richard Newman's book, The Recolonization of Africa. And so therefore your whole Rwandan situation is based on that recolonization of Africa. You see, very key to understand this, that what's going on. The white man First of all, Africa has been hit with famines, pestilence, and all of this particular thing the entire 20th century. Why is it the last decade in the 20th century he is concerned with Somalia? He is concerned with Rwanda. The Somalian incident was based on some tablets of Tahuti, which is some ultimate alchemical tablets, ultimate tablets in alchemy, and some ultimate history of the world that's been documented in a whole entire history of the world with all of its metaphysical meaning and everything. Although it was recorded in Egypt, with Egypt being ransacked and most of the libraries burned, the Library of Alexandria, there was a custodian and a race of people in ancient Punt, which would be Somalia, and Kush, that kept records. So when they went into Somalia, they was trying to get those particular records. That there's a mythology of an ancient people that kept these records up to this day. It's also documented in Jeremiah's Book of the Beginning, Volume 1, around the first chapter on Egypt. So they went back up into Somalia to find these particular records. These particular records that somehow can save them based on them getting certain mysteries that are lost even to the white man. But they couldn't find these records because these particular people are metaphysical beings that can keep these records right in the melanin, which is detailed files if you tap into it the right way. So therefore they could not find these people. But that is the reason that they were in Somalia the whole time, you see. So this whole thing is a part to actually to recolonize Africa. Also, you know that you can get the Boulet's book, the history of the Negro Boulet's book. You can get that book at Barter's bookstore. You can order that book at Barter's bookstore. It's called The History of Sigma Pi Phi by Charles Wesley. Charles Wesley is the person that wrote the Alpha Phi history of Alpha Phi Alpha. But Charles Wesley, you can get the history of Sigma Pi Phi fraternity, which was the book that Steve Coates said was stolen from him. And you can't find any books on fraternities, black fraternities, but this particular book so happens to be on sale at Borders. Also, some other information, if you want some books that you can't find, I have some other information on how you can trace books. A place called B-A-W-K-E-R-S, Barker's Books in Print. Barker's, I don't know, I'm a bad speller. Barker's Books in Print. The number is 1-800-275-2606. 1-800-275-2606. Now you go there and you call this 1-800 number and they'll tell you the books that's in print. If Barker's can locate the books for you, then you can call your local bookstore, whatever one you want to deal with, and you can get this book. So that's why it's crucial to get that book, Emil Bach's book, Apocalypse, the Apocalypse of St. John. You can get it by calling this particular number, Barker's Books in Print, to get these particular books. You see, so if you have problem finding this Sigma Pi Phi book, because it is in print, this is the book company that just has everything basically in America and in Europe that's in print that they can get their hands on. Since that being an American book, you won't have any problem getting that particular book. You see what I'm saying? Huh?
I'm sorry.
It's called the Apocalypse of St. John. The best book ever written on Revelations. The Apocalypse of St. John's by Emil Bach. As well as another great book on Revelation that deals with alchemy. And Revelations is the book, The Beginner's Guide to Revelations by Robert Robinson, who is a Jung scholar. You know, another great book is a woman by the name of her name is June Singer. June Singer. It's called Seeing Through the Visible World. which is very key because you're going to find out that this world is an illusion. And so she deals with several things, and she deals with several things based on the Christ energy. She also deals with Gnosticism. She deals with alchemy, and she has studied melanin. June Singer, she studied melanin. So anytime you see the words in her book, chaos, she's talking about melanin. Anytime you see the word primal material, that's melanin. Primal material, that's melanin. She has studied melanin. June Singer, Seeing Through the Visible World. Very key book. Also, too. Now, another thing we want to get into is the actual thing on 60 Minutes. Remember 60 Minutes came on about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and they had this woman, this white woman that wrote this book, Not Out of Africa, challenging the years of study that was put back the wrongs done right, but started with George G.M. James, all the Afrocentric scholars, and even the white scholar Martin Bernard. So what happened is the white boy, understanding that our scholars were very strong, waited until the Afrocentric movement petered down some and kind of filtered out to the particular point, because we get in things and we get interested in it, but after a while we abandon everybody because we don't want to hear nobody. But we don't understand that the Afrocentric movement should have been as strong as it was in 88, 89, 90, and all with the illustrious scholars, because anytime you let up, the white boy is coming back. So the white boy waited until First World is only a small meeting group, and the Afrocentric movement was a thing of the early 90s. And then he said, now it's time to hit them. So they paid this woman to write this book, you see, attacking the African origins of ancient Greece. You see what I'm saying? The African origins of ancient Greece. And they paid her to write this book. That's the government set it all up. Now, the way they did Malefi Asante, it's crucial that you don't go on TV to defend yourself. I'll tell you why. First of all, if you go on TV, always agree the only way I'll go on TV if it's live. Because if it's not live, they go in and they edit the part and they make you look like a fool. So basically, they went in and they did a hatchet job, and you would think that Malefi Asante is this crazy black man at Temple University that came up with this idea of Afrocentricity. And it's his whole brainstorm alone. So they would make it into this this particular crackpot scholar, one person against the whole world. And they don't let you know that there's a whole cadre of scholars nationwide and worldwide that deal with this. So they'll just say, oh, this is this man's way to try to do something politically. You see. Then they got the gall to ask him and ask black people, do you think that you learning about your history will help you? Now, you wouldn't dare go to the doggone Jews and ask them, do you think learning Jewish culture, the fake Jews, and ask them learning Jewish culture would help you? You see what I'm saying? You wouldn't dare go to the United States government and ask them, would American history help you? But the thing about it is the white man has such a disrespect for black people and a contempt for black people, and he thinks we are inferior because that's his nature, because he's arrogant and he's lacking things, so therefore he has to look down on people because he's inadequate. Until the point where as he can say anything about black people, you understand? Anything he wants about black people, and basically his is the law, because he is reality, basically. The power to define and make it stick. You see what I'm saying? Then they'll go and get an old black Negro man that's talking about, oh yeah, ancient Egypt, these black people, we are Americans and all this kind of thing here. And like I say, we got so many black people that come on TV and sell us out. Until in actuality, I kind of admire the Arabs. Now, you don't have to go around killing a lot of people, but you got to make a statement. You put out a couple of $1 million on some Negroes that do you wrong in the public, and this stuff will stop. Because you know, basically, the Arabs, you just don't say everything you want to say about them doggone Arabs. Okay. Right? That Solomon Ruskin scared up a whole lot of people. So therefore now, people are really scared on what they say about them, especially when they're dealing with the religion and stuff like that. Right? You can do a lot of stuff, but you can't talk about Allah. You see? And the reason why our people disrespect us is because our people know ain't no price that come down with it. You understand what I'm saying? And so why you say, well, that's kind of drastic what you're saying, but you got to understand, when our people being unhealthy that we are, and we see these particular things on TV, being unstable, you can ruin thousands of black people that was wishy-washy in the first place. Oh, I knew that old African stuff wasn't about nothing. And to give them an excuse to be the idiots that they are. So therefore, you can actually tear the fiber apart of unhealthy people by us being unstable and unhealthy based on psychological post-servitude black insanity. Permanent children, pathological grown-up children at large. Because we're in this particular thing, we need, it's crucial when we see things because it can really damage us. And by coming on that TV, it can go out to thousands and thousands of people that do this thing. Because we don't read, but TV is our thing. You see? So when they put a Negro up there and he'll say things and all, it's got to be a doggone price. You see what I'm saying? But then again, like I say, he wouldn't dare do it to them Jews either. Not at all. Check. So it's just to tell you the thing, whereas how now all of a sudden, because we are a faddish people and we are into something, and then all of a sudden we abandon it, that's a thing in the past now. Now the white boy is always looking, as soon as we grown weak on all the scholarship we put down in the 1990s and the late 1980s, now he can come and strike back. And she writes a book, and they got the fool on TV. Have you ever gone to Africa? No. Have you ever gone to Egypt? No. Do you know anything about Egypt? No. But she's a beast. Now here it is. This man is the head of the Afrocentric African Studies Department at Temple. But he's not valid to say what he said, but they say, well, he said no, Greece was not a miracle that blew up. But the man said, but this woman is a classicist. No, wait a minute, this man is the head of the department at Temple, but he's not valid. But some white woman that's just a person that studied just like him, oh, she's valid. But that's how the beast is. You see, that's amazing. You see what I'm saying? So that's very, very interesting that this particular thing that we need to actually, that we need to actually understand what's actually going on. The military fall with the women thing. Elijah Muhammad said, you'll know the end is over when self accuses self. You see the battle that happened in Congress, that they shut down Congress and all that. Now you see the military, which is both of those were hand in hand, and you can see this thing is like a nightmare. This is all showing you that the actually walls are coming, tumbling down from within, and if you study any ancient culture, the walls came tumbling down from within. It's just like Rome was destroyed from inside out. Check. Black people are now turning in drug dealers all across the country. This is this new thing and all. You see what I'm saying? All across the country. Because we are people that think of reactionary things and also always looking at the surface but not the actual cause. And now they are applauding these people. And this is an ongoing thing across the country. Which I'm trying to say is that we got to look at this particular thing, like I said, about this whole dope thing. But my point is now this is the new trend that they're getting people, they're trying to get all these people to start doing this particular part at this particular time. When there's 400,000 crack addicts still left in the United States. Amazing. You see. Y'all all right? Now they had this whole life expo in Atlanta on the 22nd to the, I think it was the 22nd through the 24th of November. And all these white people came together with illustrious white metaphysicians and all these people trying to save the planet. And the reason why they did this was because they understand that at this particular time they have to do something because their hold and their grip is getting ready to be loosened. So therefore they're having all these particular metaphysical scholars that come out from all over. And then not only that too, they said, well, we got to get somebody black in it to legitimize it. So as a result, Delbert Blair was one of the main keynote speakers, and they was counting on him because they're looking for a messiah, and if they can get the black energy, you see what I'm saying, they can do some things. But my key is, if he don't know, this is one reason why we can't be going to their particular conferences and stuff, because they're doing stuff because they're looking for certain people, and they got 5 black people to actually speak. But the key was, they had over 200 white people, but that's a lot of people. Can you understand the magnitude of 200 white people, New Agers, coming to a conference?
City to city.
City to city. They had it in L.A., they had it in Atlanta, and in Atlanta at the same time they had a Christian conference that was going on, trying to keep that energy going. But they put Deborah Blair as one of the main keynote speakers, as well as Dr. Andau. But even though they didn't know, you can't do that for the simple fact they're trying to use your energy as the battery to actually energize this particular thing to keep things afloat, because they know if you ain't got the black energy in it, there ain't no energy at all. So we got to look out for these particular things that's actually going on at this particular time. You see what I'm saying? Texaco smoke screen. That's just a smoke screen. Pay some Negroes off and all. Like I told you last night, it's a smoke screen to get you from understanding that we are in the realm of black body snatching, where 12 million black people are now dead and missing in the United States, or in concentration camps. So this is another smoke screen. The 12 million black people, 12 million. Well, like I told you before, how it can be 12 million is because our population is higher than the 30 million that they tell you. If it's 60 million, like I said, even Jesse Jackson said it was 60 million in 1988. Well, if it's 60 million people and you're still getting reports of 30 or 40 million people, you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That means y'all gonna damn near got 30 million people that you can choose from and kill off. And that's the mindset, because once these statistics come out, you put them in your mind and that's what you go by. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's what you go by. And it's interesting because a white boy was telling me, and I think this cracker was a missionary, and he was telling me back, he told me back in 93, that there ain't that many black people in Africa. He said, ain't that many black people left in Africa? So we was arguing him down because we thought he was talking about a political thing to try to, because we was arguing over religion and how Africa is 3 times bigger than America. But the white boy, really what he was telling us something that he knew when he said, there ain't that many black people left in Africa. You see what I'm saying? He was telling us is that basically how much you're in Africa, you still in only one section at a time. You don't know how many people are missing. And he was actually telling us how many people that they killed. Over half the brothers and sisters in Africa are dead. Mm-hmm. So when he was saying that by him being in the part of that missionary thing, and you know that missionary thing was the people that killed up half the people. He knew what he was talking about. Mm-hmm. But we didn't get it at that time. He said, there ain't that many black people left in Africa. You see. It's amazing. You see what I'm saying? And so that's very interesting. So we understand certain things that's actually going down, you know. So now, let's deal with some other things at this particular time. I don't want to deal with this. Let's see what we're dealing with here. Yes. We have also said that now just about everything you see in Hollywood is either a robot or either something that's selling out. Take for instance, Wesley Snipes, they got scared of him when he did New Jack City. He did The Road Too Strong. So they went in and did what they had to do to him, and he ended up playing a drag queen. Right. Blair Underwood produced a movie where he played a black Jesus Christ. Never got out in the public. As a result of that, they said, well, we got to stop you. And so now Blair Underwood is now doing things where he's playing a mass murderer in the movie Just Cause, as well as he's beating down the black man in these new cop movies. You see what I'm saying? In these new cop movies. These are things that they're doing and all and stuff, because it's real serious now that in order to remain in doggone Hollywood, you got to basically sell out. So what we're telling you, that there's no movie stars out there are very healthy. You see what I'm saying? That you might think. All of them will do several things. It's like Angela Bassett, the strong black woman, but she's in strange days and she tonguing a white boy down. You see what I'm saying? And like I told you, like I said before, Strange Days was nothing but the 1995 movie that come out a year before Tupac's death to set up to announce the Tupac's death. If you look at Strange Days, the movie with Angela Bassett, you will see in the actual movie that it was that the end of the world was fought around the murder of a rap star. This controversial rap star. And the end of the world was getting ready to have social unrest and everything else at this particular hot spot at the end of the world, and was all around this rap star. You understand what I'm saying? And 1 year, that came out in fall 1995. Fall 1985, fall 1995, fall 1996, Tupac gets killed. Almost the same time of the release date of the movie the year before. Remember I told you how they released What's Love Got to Do With It, of abuse? And a year later, you got the OJ thing. You see? This time, a year later, after Strange Days, you have the Tupac murder. All set up. Everything is set up off of the movies. And they survey to see how conscious you are by telling you the truth in the movies. Like the movie Long Kiss Goodnight, where in the movie they admitted that they blew up the World Trade Center and blamed it on a doggone Arab. In the movie. You see what I'm saying? And blamed it on an Arab. They put it, everything is in the movie. Even the brother DiBernardo, what's his name? Yeah. Said that, you can't sleep on the movies. Which I viewed his last tape, and I gotta say, and when I viewed the tape and all, the brother is hot. He's on it. You see what I'm saying? He's on it. I just say that also, too, that everything that's going on the physical part, there's an inward part. So we talk about the grid lines, and we talk about all these hot spots of energy. Those hot spots that pose as energy in the days when the vibration was not as high, you had to go to hot spots for illumination. Now those hot spots are right here in your body, and you can tap into all of that. You see what I'm saying? So also the Hale-Bopp that's coming, this particular comet, is not only an indication of something that's coming from the outside that he's going to talk about tomorrow, but it's also stuff that's coming on the inside of you. So anytime you see some stuff that's going on in the cosmos, it is only a sign that's projecting outwardly what's opening up inside of you, because inside of you is the real universe, and that's only the holographic universe. This whole physical world is a hologram. Michael Talbot's book, Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot, which is quantum physics. This is only an illusion. And the problem that we have is mistaking illusionary phenomenon as reality. In the Gnostic scripture, they say if you say that heaven is in the sky, then the birds will get to heaven before you. If you say that heaven is on the ground, then a dog will get to heaven before you. But if you say that heaven is within, then you know, brother and sister, that you have attained the knowledge of where heaven is, and you will obtain the knowledge of self. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a holographic universe. And that's a quantum physics book, Holographic Universe, Michael Talbot, who is a quantum physicist. You see what I'm saying? Very key at that particular time to understand that particular information that's actually going on at that particular time. You see. So let's go with some other stuff. Hale-Bopp. Hale-Bopp. Let me get some things. Ginger, where's... Yeah, here's the picture of it. Here's a picture of it. Now, if you notice in the picture, when they show the blown up picture, you will see, this is the picture that you would see in your normal sky. This is the magnified picture from the Hubble telescope. If you notice it, you will see light around a black dot. So the mystery of this is, if you study the characteristics of what is coming based on it being objectively and outside of you, you don't get the mystery. The mystery is what is coming is an ignition, an ignition of the igniting of what? The black dot, which is coming to this, which is ignited in most of you anyway. You see what I'm saying? So that's one of the mysteries behind the Hale-Bopp is not so much the white boy is concerned for the simple fact that he understands the outer manifestation of it, but he's also concerned, he's concerned because he understands that the inner manifestation of it means that in actuality us getting our stuff together. You see what I'm saying? Us getting our particular stuff together at that particular time. You see? So that's very interesting, and that's what you must try to understand what's actually going on at this time about the Hale-Bopp, and this particular picture actually shows this. Now, here's some other information on it. I found a direct link to the Hubble telescope. Not only that, but it has pointed directly at the comet Hale-Bopp. The program was running in some kind of analysis, taking direction and notes, the projection of the path of the travel, etc. After realizing that I had observed, I started searching and came across an email data that trail that led to the directory of the office of the Pope himself. That was discussed. That was discussed. It says that, but I cannot know. Over the next 2 weeks, I began to uncover is very aware of the existence of the companion of the companion and is very worried about it. That's talking about Hale-Bopp. I began to copy the files and the pictures that were present at the terminal, and I went and I found a report from the United Nations to the Vatican, as well as a report to NASA regarding their concerns. It was very obvious to me that a great many people and entities knew of the companion and are doing their very best to keep it quiet, very quiet, as the next part of my story tells. I have found another file that I wanted to look at, but it was independently encrypted. At the time I discovered it. I had already been outlined at the terminal for the same time, and I decided to copy the file and also to decode it at my leisure. And as I was leaving the lab, I was approached by 2 of the Pope's top allies and was asked to meet with them later in the evening. See, I got to slow down when I'm talking because I'll be going real fast. So I didn't feel comfortable about the situation, but I agreed, and I told them indeed that that I needed to take a shower, and I would join them later. And I haven't been back to the Vatican ever since. Now, this is the end part of that. I found out about a week later through some old friends that the contacts that had contacted me had been placed. Excuse me. Let me slow down. That the contacts that a contract had taken out on my life. 2 days later, my mother and father were killed in a car crash in France. 3 days after that, my brother and sisters was killed, and a single engine plane went down on the east coast of the United States. I have been on the run for a very long time, and I am still trying to decode the files that I have in my possession. Approximately 10 copies have been distributed to my friends and in the field in an event that I should disappear, in case of an event that I should disappear. I do not fear for my life, as I am very adept, that I am very adept at not being found. However, I believe that the world needs to know of the information that I have, and I would be willing to share all that I have I have with you Dr. Bell, because see, Dr. Bell is this particular guy that's on the internet. What's his name? Art Bell.
Oh, yeah.
That deals with all this particular stuff. You need to understand that your life could be in danger if you were to go public with what I have gave you. I apologize for being so vague, and I feel it necessary to point this out at this time. If you would like the information, it just tells you that you can write a letter and all this kind of stuff here. But basically, you know, it's talking about, he's telling this to the Dr. Bell. But basically now, the key to this particular thing is how we get caught up in a lot of things is this particular information that is actually coming, that they're talking about here, that's got this so-called cat's life in danger. This particular information is coming. Is anytime you see anything like comets, conjunctions like the Siggy ceremony, the white buffalo, there's been several things that's been going on. It's only an indication of what is going on the inside of you. That's the difference. That's the difference between actually looking for something to come. The stuff that's coming is in you. That's the reason why they have been killing you for the last 10 years. Because they're trying to stop the rise of the Messiah. And the Messiah who is to come is in all of us. You understand where I'm coming from here? So now that's the real mystery of the actual comet is the entities of the hologram is going to give you this to keep you from looking within. And that's the real mystery of it. But I think Brother DiBernardo is going to talk about this tomorrow, right? Right. He's going to also talk about this tomorrow, so you all catch that particular lecture where he's going to go into that particular hell-bop situation also too. And if you want to know a little more about it, you need to get that particular tape. You have any of those tapes?
Yeah.
You need to get the tape of the last time he spoke here, right?
Yeah, the 22nd of November.
The 22nd of November, because it is a outstanding tape. Did you all see the tape?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we'll view it.
Right.
What you call it and all, you know.
Okay, we got about 10 more minutes here.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is on this tape. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so let's okay then. Let's deal with some things here. Let's see here. All right. Okay. Both Africa, America, Haiti, Bosnia is forms of where the white boy believes that the Christ is going to rise. But the first Christ energy is going to rise right here in America, because that's based on where the Gnostic, but the Hermetic scripts say it's going to rise. Which, when Asclepius, who is Imhotep, is talking to Tahuti, which is a conversation going on with him in the spiritual realm, and they give him the history on how Egypt is going to fall, and how everything that once was great and divine in Egypt will become a big graveyard, and how in the future the wise man will be considered, will be treated like a common criminal, and the impious man will be revered as noble, which is the European. But he says, but there will be an extremities of Egypt built towards the west, and from that the group of people will rise up. The new Egypt, we understand, is the United States, because the United States capital is built like Egypt. Well, it goes further than that, because they couldn't stop just then, because we have history of Atlantis. And so Atlanta now has Syriac architecture based on the article out of the British Museum, how to build your temples with obelisks, temples and pyramids. Now Atlanta is the new city of Atlantis. Based on the article of the British Museum. You can get that article in the book, Ancient Egypt, The Serious Connection by Murray Hope, a must-read book that was out of print since 1992, that I've been trying to tell people to get, but you couldn't get it. Now the book has been re-released this summer, Element Books. Now it's called The Serious Connection. The first one was Ancient Egypt, The Serious Connection, but it's called The Serious Connection. It was a paperback book at first. Now it's a hardback one, but they enlarged the print, because I'm kind of it's kind of bad to read stuff in small print now. You know, you tend to put it down. Murray Hope. In her chapter in the back of the book called Syrian Heritage, the article is in the British Museum that Napoleon dug up out of Egypt. This in the British Museum to this day. She prints it in the article. She prints the actual article. There's another book that she got it from called Thrice Great Hermes that's now out of print, the $50 book. 3 books in one. But she prints it in the back of her book, which, The Serious Mystery was a great book, but I enjoyed her book even better because she has a whole section called The Gods and Goddesses of the Sirius Connection, of the Sirius. And she got a whole section called The Goddesses of the Sirius. Also, she has a section called Lion Power. But in the section called Syrian Heritage, she talks about that article, and they took that same article, and from 1987 up to now, they built Atlanta based on the Syrian architecture, which is after Atlantis. You know, after Atlantis. But now that book is back out, which is a must-have. Also, her book called Atlantis, Myth or Reality, a must-have. By her also too. So what we're going to do is, how much time we got? I'm going to talk about this demiurge. Demiurge is a group of creator spirits that was created by this lower entity called a Adalabroth that's posing as God, that most people worship. This jealous God that most people worship, that you call the Supreme Being. A book that you need to get on, that little small book called Gods of Eden. And in that book they talk about the Supreme Being. Also, you can get the tape on the Sheik. You still have that tape? The Sheik talk the Supreme Being. Now, don't think this is some little old stuff that the white man made up, because it's all documented also in the Gnostic scriptures. Especially if you get this book, Jung in the Lost Gospels. Jung in the Lost Gospels, they got a chapter in here called The Prince of the World, the Myth of the Tyrant Angels. The Tyrant Angels. That's that guy called Adalabroth. The Myth of the Tyrant Angels. And that particular one is this particular entity that's posing as God that people worship. But he is not God. He is a subordinate God. He is a subordinate God that is in the place of Ra, or in the place of the Most High. You understand? So, but he has a group of people called the Demiurge, and the Demiurge is this particular, his angels or his lesser angels that is now coming and wreaking havoc on the world, and they're walking in the bodies also too. They're walking in the bodies. Now, at this particular time, they are really interested in killing a lot of the people that they think that have the potential of becoming Christ. And like I said, but we have recognized that the ones where the Christ energy is going to be the divine spark that will ignite the rest of the black people on the continent is coming right here in the United States, because the United States being the last empire standing. And the black person is here is probably the most oppressed because he has no culture whatsoever. So now, also, like I said, that he's also a person that is, he's a person that is, the tyrant angel is also trying to take places like Haiti, Africa, Bosnia, in the United States. Yoo-hoo! Telling you, in the United States. Now, the reason that I say Bosnia is because the last element of the black people in Europe that was left behind in Bosnia. The Bosnian War was fought, and they let it go on for 6 years because they was trying to kill off the last element of the black Bosnians. A group of black people that were known as the Cathars or the Cathars, which were black people that worshiped Gnosticism. The Cathars is also, you can read a book called The Christian Tradition in Europe. The Christian Tradition in Europe. You can get it, it's on sale at a lot of these stores now. Christian, especially at Barnes & Nobles. Christian Tradition in Europe. And the name of the group is the Cathars. There's a new book out called The Bloodline of the Holy Grail, where they trace the bloodline of Christ up into so-called Europe, but in actuality they miscalculated because it's here in the United States. It's called The Bloodline of the Grail. But the Cathars, and that last element in Bosnia that was black people, this is the reason why they had the war, to kill them off. They also had a war in Russia. What's it? Herzegovina? What is the name of the place? Yeah. That particular one was to kill off the last remaining elements of the black Russians that were there up until this day. That's why they let the war go on for 6 years and they only brought troops up in their last year. That is because they made sure that they killed the rest of those black people off. The Vietnam War was to go and to kill a lot of the black people off in Vietnam. You see what I'm saying? These wars is being fought is to neutralize places that they can kill small pockets of black people, but they know ultimately they couldn't kill them in the United States, but they can somehow contain them in the United States. And in Africa, they just basically control the whole continent. But they made sure that they tied up loose ends. They killed all the black people off in Bosnia. You see what I'm saying? That's very key that you understand that particular part, because they are trying to kill the Christ. Yeah. And so most of your wars from the 1900s on up has been to try to kill the Christ off. That's why we fight in most of the wars also too. And that was the reason why. Also too, like I said, that the reason why you actually have to, they integrated you into the society basically and gave you corporate jobs from over the last 20, 25 years is because they used to steal designs and ideas and inventions from you illegally. So they had a way to legalize that. It's called a job. You go and get your little $30,000, $40,000 a year, but you give up all your hard-earned secrets to these corporations, and they can get your designs and your ideas for free. It's called a job now. Before they used to steal it from you just basically by just utter meanness, but now they legitimized it, and it's called a job. And so they had to bring the black person, the creative mind of the entire world, into the workforce at that particular time. Very key that you understand that. You know, and so there was those particular places were hot spots around the world that they had to go in and neutralize, and Bosnia was one of those particular people. But when you read the book, The Hidden Tradition of Europe, be sure to note, the Christian tradition of Europe, be sure to note those are black people that they were talking about. You see what I'm saying? Those were black people that they were also talking about. Remember that. Okay. Another word for melanin in Gnosticism is Hemmitt. Hemmitt. Remember that name. Let me spell it out for you so you'll know. Anytime when you read stuff on, it's also dealing with the Divine Mother. It's called the Lesser Sophia, but it's also called Hemmitt. Let me see if I Achamo Hemmitt. H-A-M-O-T-H, but the real word is A-C-H-A-M-T-H. Hemmitt is the name for, another name for melanin. Another name for melanin is Adamus. A-D-A-M-A-S, Adamus, is also a name for melanin in Gnosticism. Also, is another name for I might give you some other names before we let out. I might give you some other names because I ended up being able to copy down this lost list that I had on the different names, over 300 names of melanin and all, you see. So I'll give you some of those names before we leave out. So therefore, when you see several names in books, you'll know they're talking about melanin also too. So remind me to give you some of those before we get out of this particular lecture tonight. Okay. There are Hebrew letters that's in the Egyptian temples and in papyrus that the Egyptologists have hid this information. So the Hebrew letter was originally an Egyptian script. The Hebrew letters as well as the Sumerian letters and all. So in actuality it also tells you that the Hebrews were Egyptians, a branch of Egyptians that left, not was in slavery, but a branch of Egyptians that made a pilgrimage out of Egypt and all out of Hemmitt also too. And so that is something that you actually need to understand. The word Hebrew is a modified word of Heru. Hebrew. It's a modified word of Heru. As a word, and also Heru becomes Jehu, or Jehu, also in the 2 Kings, I think. Also, they talk about Jehu. Also, you'll see in 2 Kings, also in the Bible, also. That's very interesting that you need to understand that. Okay, the Last Supper. The Last Supper, two things. The Last Supper was, in the Osirian drama, it's a picture of when Osiris was invited to go to a party with his brother Set-Typhon, and the co-conspirators killed him and put him in the chest. That was also the Last Supper. But there's two Last Suppers. And also the Last Supper also was, in fact, a supper of the Last Supper is when we meet up on another realm. There's going to be a great big party that's going on. You can get this particular information in E. Wallace Budge's book, a small book called Egyptian Religion. And in there it will be dealing with a whole section that will list all these foods and all these things when we meet up with the other brothers and sisters who have gone on, and we rise into our thing. And when we meet up with the original people that fell to the lower realm, and when we meet back up into the hereafter, there's going to be one great big feast and party. And they have in the papyrus they list all the foods and the wines and everything else that we would just be partying and stuff with. Partying on the mothership and all on the Sectec boat or the Actec boat. So that particular information is in E. Wallace Budge's book, Egyptian Religion. Also in his little book, the Egyptian Heaven and Hell, they make mention of it. But they make mention of it, and so now the Egyptian Heaven and Hell is the section of the Book of Coming Forth by Day called the Book of Gates. And the book of Gates is the book that the Hebrews took and got their hell scene, their hell story from 100 years before Jesus Christ was born, or before the Christian era. Sheikh Anthony Durock mentioned that right before he died at the King Center down in Atlanta, Georgia. So that book, the Book of Gates, is also talking about the different levels of the dimensions of the mind, and that's what the whole hell thing is, and it had nothing to do with you burning in hell, which was a metaphysical concept of hell, or what it was talking about, which was actually the burning hail, which you know that they used to burn the bodies of the Hebrews based on the travels when a certain amount of people would die. And that was just a form of creation. They call it the hail. But it had nothing to do with some you burning in hell. But on the other hand, but in that particular book, E. Wallace Budge's book, The Egyptian Heaven and Hell, was the original book of Gates in which they took they made the hell story from. You can get that particular book for $6 now, $6 or $7. The Egyptian Heaven and Hell by Budge. And that's the Book of Gates. Also, you should find the Book of Gates a Book of Gates would also be in the book Ancient Egypt, From Fetish to God in Ancient Egypt by E. Wallace Budge, as well as a form of the Book of the Dead has a form of the Book of the Gates also too. Now, but remember, you can get that Last Supper or the party meals and what we do when we meet back up with the ancestors in that particular book called The Egyptian Religion. Now, George Hunt Williamson received the channel of Akhenaten in his book, The Secret Places of the Lion. He received the channel, and it was related, and actually, this particular book, and Akhenaten was related and compared with the Christ. He received the channel in 1958. He received that channel, and in 1962, a black maid that was working for Gene Dixon, who was the psychic of Gene Dixon, that she paid, this black maid was the high psychic. And what happened was that Gene Dixon paid this woman money and paid the family off for years, and the psychic worked for her, and she took the credit for all the black woman's readings. But what happened was about 2 years ago, the black woman died, and the family members came out and bust the story, and she got cold busted that this black woman was doing all the psychic prediction. Gene Dixon, as you know, is being one of the world-renowned greatest psychics. And so she was so-called because and a lot of her stuff was accurate because the black woman was doing it. Now, it's interesting about this because Gene Dixon did 100 predictions in 1995, and only one of them came true. So obviously she couldn't have been the world-renowned psychic. But this black woman was the one that gave her all of the actual predictions, especially the prediction in her book, My Life Prophecies. My Life Prophecies. In the particular part on the coming of the child of the East. Now, the child of the East was received by the black woman in 1961, 1962, about a boy that was born in the West and taken to the East. But they miscued it to think it was taken to the Middle East, and it was talking about the Christ energy in the United States. Now, as a result of this, he talked about how Akhenaten and Nefertiti came and they brought this child that had on swaddling clothing, which just means poor and humble, to the West. And how this, and she said, but when I looked at the child, I knew the child was not for me. Because in actuality, she understood based on the channels that the black woman gave her, this was a channel of the Christ coming back on the planet. But because it was depicted as a black person, she labeled it and branded it as the Antichrist. And this is the Antichrist that all of the world scholars now have been waiting to come back, that they call the man in the turban from the Middle East, this particular Antichrist, that they branded the Antichrist. This is the same person that they've been waiting to come back all these years, that in actuality was a symbolic of the Christ energy, or the Christ figure. But because it was black, remember, she didn't put the prophecy out until 1969. And she held it because it baffled her, because based on what the woman told her, I saw the Christ, and the Christ is black. So based on her racist attitude, she branded it the Antichrist. If you get the book, The Armageddon Script by Peter Lemisher, he will make comment on there on how her devout Catholic bringing up made her, and her little bit of racism made her brand this Christ figure the Antichrist. He also talks about it in his book, The Great Pyramid Decoded, which is also like a $29 book, but you can get it now on sale at Barnes & Nobles as one of those books on special. And in there they'll talk about also how she branded this particular one. But I also recommend that you get The Armageddon Script by Peter Lemisher. Peter Lemisher. He also wrote The Great Pyramid Decoded. But The Armageddon Script, and in the back they got a chapter called Seers in Time. But if you can't find it, just look in the index for Gene Dixon. And he talks about how she branded this Christ, the Antichrist. Now, what happened is the reason why Akhenaten had to come back and bring this particular energy back is because Akhenaten had went wrong in his day with a whole lot of things that went down in Egypt. So to redeem himself, he came and also had to redeem himself also. But there's another story. There's another story that is also that is also a counterpart to that particular story, and I thought I Xeroxed some stuff, but I'll see if I can find a little bit in this book. There's another story that is a counterpart to that story, is that Akhenaten, let's see if I can find this thing. Akhenaten, there's an Egyptian part in Hemmitt about a pharaoh called Neferkar. Now, Neferkar was supposed to be the darker half of Akhenaten. It said that long ago that Neferkar was a pharaoh that lived in Egypt. And this particular pharaoh, he worshipped the brotherhood of Neferkar, worshipped the brotherhood of Nirlahotep. Anyway, what he worshipped was the brotherhood of the ancient Typhonian tradition, called the ancient Typhonian tradition. And as a result, what happened is Neferkar was run out of Egypt. He was run out of Egypt, but he vowed that he would return one day. But before he ran out of Egypt and all, he took a group of followers with him, and I think they was trying to kill him, and they went underground and trapped themselves in this tomb, and he wrote the history of the universe, or the history of the world, on the walls. And they said it's supposed to be a descendant of his family in North America to this day. The descendants in North America this day. Which in actuality I think is metaphysical, is also bearing witness to the descendants of the pharaohs in North America, and they're talking about the United States of America. Although black people are all over the globe, they're talking about a group of people that will rise up in the end. Even Steve Coker talked about when he's read that several people talking on the Illuminati, and they were saying that we are doomed, and the only people that can stop this Illuminati is the urban black youth in the ghetto, or basically the urban black people. You see, the urban black people and all. And that descendants, they're also just bearing witness to what we are dealing with at this particular time, as far as the descendants of that we are. This is also bearing witness, as well as just about anything, especially the Gnostic scripture that always talks about us being in the West and being enslaved in a place that's not our home also. It's almost like scripture after scripture that talks about that. And every bit of that is also apocalyptic. Which I'm recommending that book, The Gnostic Scriptures by Bentley Layton, also too. Get that particular book if you can. All right, let's see what else we can deal with. Like I told you last night, it is key and crucial that you start trying to live your life with less amount of stress and stop thinking of things as being so important. That's the way to neutralize the ego, and try to live your life as if you were a teenager or a person in your early 20s or something like that, without a care in the world. So we're asking people, the older you get, the more younger you're supposed to act. Because there's an energy that's in you, and that energy can die out for being too serious. Because the seriousness that we are trained on is European seriousness. That's why if you notice, you can go to the Twa people, and you can go to people in Africa, and they look real humble. Even it's to the point where when the European was in Africa, when he first came to Africa, he said he's a childlike people. It wasn't they were childlike people, it's just that these particular people were on such an advanced level till they didn't have to look at the world around them and act like they have to be so serious around it and be these world conquerors, but be along with the world around them as far as nature-wise, because remember, we created the nature. So the key is, when you see that certain amount of humility with the Africans, not the modern Africans, because that's colonization, but we're talking about the indigenous Africans, and you see that certain amount of humility, that's because that is the humility that you need to neutralize the ego. When you see Harpocrates, which is the baby in Horus with the thumb in his mouth, they say he is very innocent, and for the mere reason that he is very innocent, no harm can come to him. That's the same thing, whereas if you can take a doggone baby and go up to a baby, or go up to a child and say something condescending and very conceited to a child, and he might not get what you say and might just laugh at you, because he's not on that realm. It's only when you go through puberty, you know what I'm saying, and go through a certain level that you start getting to the particular point that everything starts to be so sensitive. So we come up to you and say something nasty to you and all, and it might throw your whole day off. That's because of the ego. You understand where I'm coming from? So therefore, the more humble you are, the more you are protected. And when I get into the walk-ins and stuff, that's one reason how the walk-ins are able to conquer you, are able to actually walk into you, is based on your ego. Because the ego and that is all one and the same. You see what I'm saying? All one and the same. You know, okay, let's deal with some other things at this particular time. Okay, like I told you, if you're going to get into the internet, always go and look at if you're going to deal with it, tap into what is called the Leading Edge Research page, or the Leading Edge Research group. And they will have up-to-date messages on there about different things that they're letting out for the first time. As well as one particular article that also solves the discrepancy on whether the white boy was older than 6,000 years or whatever that was. And basically what it's saying is the 6,000 year period, it starts when the white person comes on top of the ground after being a person that had to evolve under underground caverns. And this is the way he was able to fool people, is that they didn't see him, because by the time of his creation he was in the underground caves. And the 6,000 years also is the record on when the European came on top of the ground. And this is what the white boys are saying in the Leading Edge Research group, which destroys which also bears witness with some discrepancies on when were these people created. We know that they were created earlier than 6,000 years ago, because we also understand that it has a lot to do with Atlantis. But what we were trying to find out is where does this 6,000 year come from, and that's when they climbed on top of the ground, and somebody noticed them even being here was about 6,000 years ago. You see what I'm saying? About 6,000 years ago. In the book of the law, in the first chapter, they will talk about how the European having half the melanin of black people. I think that's in the first chapter of the book of law. They will talk about 418. And then they'll say, but there are those people that have half of that. You see what I'm saying? They're talking about white people also too, in the book of the law. So that's very interesting. Okay, let's go on with a few other things here so we can go into a good question and answer. A good question and answer period and all. I want to deal with the, here's my Tarzan notes right here. Shoot, I was looking for them. But what I want to deal with is this particular walk-ins, because the sister asked me to go back into this walk-in thing and all, and so that's what I want to deal with at this particular time. So at this particular time, let me get my book, and I want to get some notes on this walk-ins and see what we can do here. Y'all all right? Okay, let's see here. Well, I can just go ahead and say it out of my mind. I don't have to read everything. The walk-ins are groups of people that in actuality, now, and I said some of this about this last night, that in actuality you know people that you've been knowing all your life, and all of a sudden now these people are acting very strange to you. That is because there's entities now that has come on the earth that knows that the time of the lower realm that they exist on is up. Now, because a person is on a higher realm than you, or a person in another dimension than you, don't mean that they are on a higher realm, because this realm is so low. It's just the entities just right above the earth, but still lower than the great cosmic plane that we're trying to go to, or we will be going to shortly. So these particular entities will come in and whisper in your ear and make you think that their thoughts are your own. And basically it's always antagonistic against some particular person who has a great deal of light, or who a person that has already started the ascent of going to a higher frequencies, which would be the first church taken up. Now, based on a lot of things is not so dramatic as you think of in the Revelation, that first church that was taken up somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, and that's the Afrocentric group on into its new metaphysical group. So the first original church is the people who was privy to this knowledge when other people out here were still walking around in the 1980s and 1970s and 1960s. So that's the mean. We're talking about a Christ. They say when Christ comes back, the first church will be taken up. That's Christ consciousness. And they're talking about the first wave and the people who will receive the first wave of that consciousness, because this is the church, the physical body, the temple. So the first church they're talking about it will be taken up is us, the ones that's in the consciousness at this particular time. So as a result of the first church being taken up, what has been happening is the demiurge or these particular spirits, these lower spirits, have come in and say, well, we must counter them by taking people that's close to them and around them, and actually, because those particular ones have not made the ascension yet, or gone so far up yet, we are all ascending, but those particular ones are still in the lower part. They will come in and access those particular people that surround you, and those particular people have started acting very funny around you. Some of your spouses, some of your brothers, some of your sisters, some of your best friends. And so now you're losing all kinds of people and having trouble with a lot of people, because more and more on now? Okay, I can see it going? Okay. All right. Let me keep going. You're going to have to just edit that little piece, huh?
Huh?
You're just going to have to edit that little piece, huh?
I don't know how long is it on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do this. Okay.
I don't know why.
All right.
Yeah, don't turn nothing off because something went off up there. Come and get me. Yeah.
All right. You ready? Now, these particular entities are walking in people. They're getting people in their sleep. Now, how to avoid walk-ins is basically, first of all, humility is the key. They can only stick to you if you have a nasty attitude and you have a certain hatred, especially black hatred. Also, huge egos. Huge egos bring on this demiurge, these walk-in spirits. Huge egos. Also, is this crucial that you know, burn a black candle, clean out your house at particular times, you know. And one thing about these particular demiurge spirits, if one has knowledge of them, they no longer have knowledge, power over you. You see what I'm saying? One good way to understand that these particular spirits will be on you, if you try to read and you find yourself reading and then you find yourself about 2 pages, you got to shut the book down. That is because there are spirits that's stopping you from gaining knowledge, because knowledge is light and the light kills them because it's all thought. So, but once you realize this, they no longer have power over you. You see what I'm saying? You no longer have power over you. So basically you would do the same things that you would do to clean out any negativity, burning incense, candles, keep your hair clean. You know what I'm saying? And different things like that. And also good thoughts, very positive thoughts and all. Very positive thoughts would also do it, as well as just being mindful that this particular time that we are in, this war is a very big psychic war. You see, and that's also going on. So I want to read some a couple other things to you out of the Holy Kabbalah. Now, the Zohar. The Zohar is the written Kabbalah. So if you ever there's this guy named Gosrian Shulam. I think his name is Gosrian Shulam, something like that. He has a Zohar, a little small book you can buy called the Zohar. That's the written Kabbalah. So I'm reading some stuff out of here that's also pertaining to the upper head part of the black man and black woman. And it says the holy ancient is hidden and concealed in the wisdom from above, is hidden in the cranium, and is found and not found. Surely in that nothing is revealed except the head alone, because he is the head of all heads, and the wisdom above which is the head, and hidden in it, and called the upper brain and the hidden brain. And the brain is the tranquil and quiet, alone, and knowing but himself. And what it's talking about here is it's talking about the upper head, and it's also bearing witness that this upper brain or hidden brain that they're talking about is nothing but bearing witness to melanin. Now, the reason why a lot of things that you think of that's talking about black magic, that you think is all negative, is based on the mysteries of alchemy and the mysteries of melanin that through the centuries that we used to study to raise up in Egypt, and through the centuries has been turned around to mean something negative. This truth is known, amongst others, to some ancient Egyptians in the time preceding the old eon as Khepra. Khepra, the scarab, is a symbol of the black dot. Khepra. It's a symbol of the black dot. The sun at midnight, which is the sun at midnight. Anytime you hear the sun at midnight, that's talking about melanin. The sun at midnight, or the black hidden sun. Amen, hidden sun. Amen Ra. Amen Ra means melanin. Ra means God, or means the sun, or means light. Amen Ra, the hidden sun, is in you. Ab also means the black sun. Ab Ra, the black sun. Abraham, which means the black son. Abraham. The sons and daughters of Abraham. Ab comes from the word cabdit, or had it, or cabdit, or also it comes from the word, also that particular word, had it, which I was talking about the black dot. Also you get the word Jack, Cat, Kakshidi, Jack, Jock, Jacob, Jacob, which is also talking about the black body. Abraham is Abraham, which means the black dot. Sons and daughters of the black dot. Not no one damn man or no Jewish race. You see what I'm saying? One man. Abraham, which means Ab is another word for son. Ham means black. Ham, Cam is black. Sam, which means black. Son, Samson, black son. Samson, hidden son. You see what I'm saying? Anytime these are words, Samitic, which means black. You see what I'm saying? They say semi, but it's Samitic, Sam, son. Sam is another word for Cam, Ham. You see, all of that. Ram, which means the black one. The ram-headed Amen. Lamb, woolly head. All that is indications and alchemical components of melanin. Has nothing to do with the physical manifestation of some man and some shepherd man that had all these damn children. So Khepra, the midnight sun, the sun at midnight, as centuries passed, this knowledge gradually became lost, openly politically obscured, and in the place ignorant superstitions, craven fear, even outright terror of the dark arose. So black magic, which was the alchemy, black magicians, which means the Egyptian priests, became negative. It was no longer recognized as it is in its original yin-yang symbol, the phenomenon of darkness and light. Yin and yang must out of necessity coexist to be completely interdependent. Indeed, must be the condition that spring forth from one another, as the conditions thereby being any perception at all. Instead, by contrast, they both became frozen fixed principles, non-fluid, of opposition, subjectively imagine absolute concepts of good and evil, locked in eternal duel of good wins on the day of judgment. That's all moralism. But what they were talking about is the mysteries of melanin, which is alchemy, became obscured into black magic and all of this particular things. You see what I'm saying? And all of these particular things. Also in alchemy, we talk about in alchemy, the mysteries of antiquity no longer exist. But in the place of the mysteries of alchemy, which teaches the great cranium, which is also a word that's talking about cranium, the picture language of the Hermetic symbolism. It is the rebirth of water and spirit, closely connected with which this ancient but publicly never answered. Now, how can these things be? Can human beings enter the second time into the mother's womb, be born? How can a person be born again? Now, born again has nothing to do with you going to get a doggone religion and being saved. Being saved means you have a black dot, which is called the Christ, anointed one. And you are being saved by the black dot, Christ. Christ saves. Christ, a Christos, which is inside of you, saves you. The seed saves you. That what my father did not plant cannot be plucked up. He planted the seed, and the seed is the black dot which saves you. You see, being saved, you are born saved because you have the seed in you, the black melanated seed, which is the anointed with olive oil, the black and green. Olives are black and green. Melanin is black and the green form of the plant life. Olive oil. Oil is crude oil. Crude oil is carbon. Carbon is the basis in the substance of melanin. Melanin is the byproduct of carbon. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, which is carbon. Which is carbon. So, the human being can not only but must be born again, but led back into the primal materia, which is melanin. Primal materia is the alchemy term for melanin, out of which he comes forth according to his astro nature. So if they're talking about your astro nature, it ain't got a damn thing to do with moralism. It's based on your nature, the seed that your father planted or your mother planted. The father comes from the mother. There's a mother and a father. The father is only a reflection of the mother in her masculine phase. It's only the mother. You see, but your astro nature, your nature, I'm going to say their nature is that of evil. So your nature is that of good, and it's based on nature, has nothing to do with moralism whatsoever. It was only became moralism because of a person lacking the nature of the divine Christ. Before the Son of Man can be exalted, he must be humbled. That's the ego. Before he can ascend to heaven, he must walk 3 days in hell. That's Matthew chapter 12, verse 20. This is the condition of the alchemial blackness, melanin. You see? You can't descend into heaven until you have the alchemial blackness, melanin, whose central darkness, as replied through, extends 3 days and nights, and through the total blackness for 40 days. Even Jesus remained 40 days until his resurrection, after his resurrection on earth, until he ascended into heaven. Therefore, you must go through the gates of darkness to obtain the paradise of white light and bright. You see what I'm saying? And it's all alchemy and talking about melanin. So therefore, all black people will go to the hereafter because we have the seed. And it has nothing to do with how you behave, because if we behaved, we would never get anywhere. And that's the key what we have to say at this particular time, because at this particular time is crucial as black people act more and more like idiots and fools and buffoons, that you must understand that even in this thing you must get a hold on this, is that it's already been spoken for. It's already over. They have already been spoken for and already have been paid the dues. Like I said, in the mystery system, you initiated in the mystery system when it was around to get to the higher level. The mystery system is no longer around, and now your suffering becomes your initiation. That's the mystery of the suffering Messiah. They say these are people that came out of a great suffering. So that means that the divine suffering that you see with black people is divine. Is divine. So your burdens are not burdens. You inherited the divine suffering. It is the white man that is trying to give you the anesthesia called a comfort zone and luxury to take you out of your suffering, because he knows it is the divine suffering that you get to the higher level. The white European fake Jew knows about the suffering. That's why he tries to corner the market on the suffering, although he doesn't suffer. Anytime you control your own destiny, you don't suffer. You see what I'm saying? But he understands the suffering even though he lies about it, but your suffering is real. Because the Jew is also exploiting you behind. The fake Jew. That's called a suffering Messiah. The suffering Messiah. And that's what we are, suffering. And that suffering Messiah didn't come from the teachers of Christ. The suffering Messiah first originally came from the teachers of the suffering Osiris in Amenta, dead in Amenta. You understand what I'm saying? So now what we're going to do is we get ready to go into a question and answer. We're going to get ready to go into a question and answer right now. And so we can get that going on. So any questions? And so I'll just, you can just say them and I'll repeat them so we can get it on the tape the right way. What's that, brother?
I'm going to show this tape to some people, and I just want to know your profile of, like, your biography, just where you're coming from, because a lot of people don't know you, and I'm just curious when I show them this tape to give them some information. Like, we start you today.
I'm a person, my story is a bit different than the average success story as far as black America. Most success stories is a person that rises up out of poverty and becomes somewhat borderline successful in the aspect of when we talk about materialism, borderline basically stable in America based on financially. My story is a person that was basically, it was a little bit beyond middle class, because I'm from a small town of 6,000 and my family was a family of teachers, and my grandfather built houses for rich white people. So my grandmother was a thousandaire in a town that's basically 6,000 strong. And I'm from a family full of school teachers. All my uncles and aunts and my mother and everybody were school teachers. My grandmother was a school teacher. And so the equivalent of the amount of money my grandmother had in actuality, we were damn near like millionaires. When you think about the amount of money and the cost of living in Mullins, South Carolina. And then when you talk about my mama combined thing. So we talk about when I was growing up, my Christmas, people would come to our house to play, because we would have the entire living room would be full of toys packed up on top of each other. And by my aunt being a teacher in Washington, D.C., and she didn't really have any children, so therefore I got two brothers, one a year older than me and one a year younger than me. And therefore, we didn't want for anything. So I'm a brother that came from actually wealth down to poverty. And if it's not somewhat by choice that you think it was by choice based on the spiritual made me do it, the spirit made me do it. Because I had a shoe contract with Roger Bowman Industries here on Fifth Avenue, New York, which was an independent shoe designer when the design craze was real big in New York. So out of Clark College, the reason why I was able to get $1 million contract, this is real shit now. I was able to get it was $1 million contract. They funded me $500,000 to start off with, the white Jews. Then we had a warehouse in Florida. I was supposed to fly to Italy 6 times a year. And was supposed to design shoes up to this big avenues, I think it was Fifth Avenue penthouse in New York. The reason why I was able to get accepted that, because at the particular time, I was the only black shoe designer in America. So by you being the only one, you easily could be the pet nigga. And I was very talented. I was a commercial artist and a photorealist throughout college. And so by my art skills, I could design. I could draw the shoes so good, and when the people literally saw it, they didn't have to use their own skills. They can cut the patterns just right off of what I had to paper, because the shoes was. So when they saw the designs, they were so perfect. The people in Italy said, "You better hang on to this nigga." I came to New York City to pick out the shoes of the first line. I designed the fall 88 line for Roger Bowman shoes, the fall line would come out in the spring, and in the spring you design for the fall. And I designed the fall 88 line, and the guy said, "You the #1 pick. Listen, we're gonna make a lot of money off you." And so we had this great meeting in Atlanta, Georgia, in September 1989. And the guy said, "Listen, I got these white boys upstairs, some Jews, and they're going to front you $500,000 for the first line, and all this type of stuff." But he said, "Okay, but I'll tell you what, go back and see if you can get some black investors, because they're going to get their money from you and all. But either way, I was hooked." He said, "Either way, you're the $1 million boy." And I actually was hooked. I was actually hooked. And anyway, going back, I was into the eccentric movement, but in 1989, I turned 28, and spiritually I just died, and I didn't know it was 2 years later. I hadn't even called the man back, and here it is. I had all this money for this $1 million business. Actually, it was more than it was millions of dollars, because he was going to put his shoes up in there, and I was designing for his wife. Two lines for he and his wife, and then my names was going to be in the shoes the next year. I had it all hooked up, and I spiritually died, and for 2 years I couldn't do nothing but study this particular information and all, up until 92, and then I came out. And basically the spirit literally took me from one career into the other, into a life of poverty. And so now brothers been saying, and so what happened when I got into the consciousness, people been saying, "Man, you can make you pitiful, you need to make a whole lot of money." But what happened is after going through all those millions, the stuff that these people had with me, it broke me, and I can't force myself to make a lot of money and make a living, period, almost. So it's damn like a vagabond. So basically all the money I have in the world is basically what's in my pocket at that particular time. And it's not really a sickness and all, but I developed a hatred for money over those years. So basically the money that I get is basically to pay bills and buy 1 or 2 little books and get something to eat. And then I started over the course of like 91, 92, I started despising money. I started despising it. So therefore I can't make any money. So therefore all the money that I made when I would get the money, I would just buy these books. All I could do was just study. It was like a power. That's all I could do. And then I started lecturing. And so basically I was a commercial artist in college and all, but then again, even an artist has a greater perception in things, so that helped also too. But it's basically been a force. Literally the spirit took me from one career to the other, and I'm basically a slave of my inner higher self, and all. And so basically that's what it is. And so as a result, I have all my money I have made, because I was working for a partner that owned his own store, and I was making something like $200 or $300 a day, close to about $200 a day with him. And all that money, I couldn't spend, all that money just went into books. Now, I'm talking about from a whole nother lifestyle. I used to have a closet full of Armani suits, $100 polo pants, gator shoes, all that. I had enough clothes that I could wear a suit. I didn't have to repeat until like a month and a half. And all the most fabulous thing, it's just real expensive stuff. And basically, it just basically took me to what I am now. And so basically that's the goal, and also basically I have and so basically also this particular information is, I really don't study as much as you think. I just go to the books and open the books up, and the Spirit shows me what I need to do, what I need to know. But because I have a huge library, I don't need to read as much as I need to now. I used to. All I just do is go in and do the research. That's the advantages of why you should just buy books, even if you don't read them, and stock your library up. Because the more information you have, the more you don't have to read. If you got 1 or 2 books, you got to read those because you got to depend on them. If you got a whole bunch of books, you do research. You do research, and in the course of the last 4.5 years, basically, I have been able to uncover things that even some of the scholars haven't even been able to uncover. And just uncover unbelievable things that was right there. You see what I'm saying? And all. And so basically, and the Spirit just basically takes me to it, and I can understand the stuff. You see what I'm saying? So I can basically, any complex thing, I can basically read it and I can understand it. Because basically, the Spirit also channels to me through the books also too. But you see, the scholarship is always there. You see what I'm saying? And that's one of my claims to fame. Because therefore, the scholars couldn't say, oh, that's just some crazy hocus pocus shit like that Muslim stuff where they don't document the stuff. Well, when I came up, you can't say that I don't document. I document more than some of the scholars. You see what I'm saying? Some of them, a lot of them. And so therefore, I am the metaphysical scholar in the point that I can give you just as much bibliography on all the stuff I say, which the Nation of Islam, who was telling the truth from the get-go, wasn't able to do. I'm able to make laughing fools out of the ones that said that Elijah Muhammad and all that stuff was crazy anyway. And other people like Noble Drew Ali and all these so-called strange mythology cults that Ivan Van Sertima said they was, because see, that's that education that will mess you up each time. The white man does never have the ultimate knowledge, and he certainly don't give it to you in the university setting. So now we can roll with the big dogs, and it's best that I document this stuff like this now, because I know they be saying, oh, that's some crazy shit. But see, now you can't say that because we got all the scholarship, and not only that, we got ancient scholarship. That stuff that I was reading on the white boy was stuff coming from the fragments out of Egypt. And we can find damn near everything we want to metaphysically in the actual ancient stuff too. Which is another thing which I must add also too, that a lot of these white people are coming with a lot of channeled information and a lot of stuff and all these new star systems and all this kind of stuff. And that's the thing about the New Age, there's a lot of garbage out there. That's why you can't back a lot of stuff up through ancient stuff. That's the reason why the Afrocentric education was very important. Because therefore, by you having a great Afrocentric education, you can tell when these crackers is lying. Because if you read those books, you would think that there was no color nowhere in the world when they stuff, because they just makes it devoid of color, or either devoid of black. So that's the good part about the phase 1 that we went through. So now the Afrocentric community was not in opposition to what we're doing now. It in actuality went hand in hand. You see what I'm saying? It's just that black people, we are sectarian in mind because the white man turned us into this thing when we always got to separate things. So the church separate their stuff from the scholar stuff, and this particular person, the diet people, separate their stuff from this, and it's all supposed to be all read together. There is no religion higher than truth, and he who knows one book knows none. You see what I'm saying? So give me some more questions.
The last book you read from, what page did you read?
That was that Alchemy Unveiled.
What page was that?
Alchemy Unveiled, that's on page 175. This was a very expensive book, the hardback version, but since I bought this book, there's a softback version out now, so you don't have to pay as much money. You see what I'm saying? Alchemy Unveiled also. So, what's that? Oh, okay. It don't matter. What's that? Okay.
I just wanted to ask, there was a friend of mine was telling me some information that the children born today, that they're now being born with 3-strand DNA, and I wanted to know if you knew anything about.
First of all, the 3-strand DNA that Delbert Blair and all them talk about, the 3rd strand of the DNA is melanin. That's the mystery. They ain't got no more stuff than you got. The 3 strands of DNA, the double helical structure, but the 3rd strand is melanin. It is melanin.
So is it more visible now at this juncture with the AWAS current and,
Well, 2 things are happening. A lot of kids are screwed up. So that's a double-edged sword. A lot of kids are worse than anything that we could imagine. It's the worst thing that our race has produced. You know, has produced. On the other hand, because you know you got always positive and negative in that also too. But they are the worst that we produce because they are the smartest. See what I'm saying? And so therefore, by them being the smartest, a lot of times, it's too smart for their own good. But nevertheless, you see some of these children at an early age, they do things that are so amazing. I said, you know, I couldn't even perceive of that until I was 10 years old. You see what I'm saying? I'm telling you, you know, some of these children, they do and say things. I said, damn, I couldn't even think about that until I was in junior high school. You know what I'm saying? They are amazing. You see what I'm saying? But that's just a matter of the time as far as some of them had to reincarnate fast enough so they know they remember the previous life. Take for instance, my grandmother died in 1990. About a week after she died, she was walking around the house, dragging her feet. My mama said, "You're gonna have to get the hell on out of here now." So she went up to Boston where my brother was staying at the time, and he was like, "Okay, you can chill." But his wife, knowing something about roots, she went and did some stuff and got her on out of the house. And which is good because you got to send a person. If a person is lurking around on the physical realm, they need to, that means that they have not. They're still trying to do things in the physical because they are stuck, and they don't want to go to the higher realm. You see the movie Frighteners. The movie Frighteners was was probably one of the best movies that come out about the spirit this year. Frighteners. You know, and so they were still messing around on this realm, and sooner or later, either somebody from the other realm will come in and say, "Look here, you dead, damn it, time to go on." Or either they will figure it out on their own, or sometimes they can stay down here for years. So whatever the deal is, she went where she went, and so therefore she came back in 1993. She died in 90. She came back in 1993 as my brother that's a year older than me, my oldest brother. First was second daughter. The first daughter was killed. The doctors killed it when I told you about the cure, the heart and all that. So they had another baby. Now she's back on the earth. And I think she had to reincarnate because they wanted to be down here and they wanted to be close to my family for the simple fact, you know, we're just getting ready to go down. My grandfather on my father's father died in 1985. So he waited 10 years and he came back as my brother's second daughter, or the third daughter, because he got 2 that's living. My brother's third daughter came back as her, and she was born 10 years later, and that's my grandfather. So what's happening is you're going to find out that some of the family members that are used to that particular family is now coming back faster, and those children could be the close relative that passed on, either your mother, your father, or your uncle, or whatever. You see what I'm saying? It's just like Sister Delilah. Her first 2 children, I think the little baby boy is your husband. No, what is he? My son. No, is your son that passed in when 87? All right. Came back as her daughter's newborn baby boy. And who is Naima?
she's my other daughter.
She's your other daughter that passed. So she had 2, a girl and a boy that passed, and they came back, both the girl and boy, to her daughter. So now you talk about entities or your own relatives that's used to that family that don't have the luxury, don't need the luxury of going into a whole new environment and being out of sync. So they're new to your energy, so they come back to be right in that same pocket. You see a lot of times. So a lot of them are the actual relatives. You see what I'm saying? Like that. No, so you literally looking at somebody like I'm my grandmother. And sure enough, she got traits of my grandmother. You see what I'm saying? She got traits of my grandmother. Now the new baby that he had, my grandfather, she looks at you. She's real serious, and she will look at you, and you know she's saying, I'm not a damn child, and I don't appreciate all that gaga goo shit in my face. So she'll look at you like you are an idiot to be treating her like a child. She really stares you down, and it's really scary. She says she'll look at you like this, and you all that old gaga goo baby, that old baby talking. She's looking at you like, and I mean, it's just as amazing for a girl. It's what, she's a year and a half now, and she don't take no, and also she realizes, and even the spirit says she know who you are, and she'll know who you are until they basically know who they are. They basically know who they are until this new ego develops in them, and they develop another personality. You see, and that's why they are imaginative and all of that stuff. But by the time they develop another personality by 6 years old, when you start school or whatever, they develop that, and a lot of that disappears. But they are, you know what I'm saying. And what depends on the degree of how psychic somebody is a lot of people are able, some of them are able to take a certain amount of things with them that don't get wiped out when this new personality comes in. Where they get used to this new damn body, and all of a sudden, I'm Bobby Hemmitt now. Other than being a brother that was in the 1800s got shot in my back by trying to escape from slavery, and I was in the mystery system and all, and and one thing and all, like I said, I was a teacher in the mystery system, one of the priests, and I had a student which was this girl, this woman, and I think I got kicked out of the priesthood. I was a priest several times. But one time I got kicked out of the priesthood in an incarnation for messing with this girl, my student. And so in 1993, I had to redo the rites, so the student came all the way from California to be back with me, and that's the sister I'm with now. But like I told you today, she says she remembers when she was a little girl, she used to see me in visions of us being together now, sitting in the same living room or whatever that we are in now. You see what I'm saying? And she used to see me in visions and all, you see. She used to see me in visions, so she came back all the way from California, and it's almost impossible how we met. You see, that it would actually be this way and all, because like I say, she's what, 10, 12, 11 years younger than me? You see what I'm saying? And it's almost, and I'm saying the way it is, it had to be spiritual and all, because I would never in my life even consider being with her at that age group and all, you see what I'm saying? But then again, on the other hand, it just worked out that way. You see what I'm saying? So that's what the deal is. So give me some more questions. What's that?
I was reading the other day, the house is in the Kahoo, but the Kahoo is not in the house.
Yeah.
Or the vice versa. Have you broken that down yet? Or
the calves mean the star.
Okay.
The calves in the Ku is not the star. Okay, the Ku means pyramid in Egypt, Kahuti, pyramid, and the pyramid is the apex, which is the head. So the star is in your head, not your head in the star. So that's what it means, the head part. The pyramid is the head, it's the capstone of the great pyramid, which is the head of God, the 13th man, which is the head of the black man and black woman. And the calves is a star. Every man, every woman is a star, and that star is the black dot. So calves is in the Ku, not the Ku in the calves, which means the star is in your head, not your head being in the star on a planet. You got it. That's what it means. Yeah, that's what it means. The more difficult the questions, the better I can answer them. Yeah. Give me some more questions.
There's a few words that you mentioned earlier. I'm curious linguistically. You said Tarzan. Would that sound like a dark sun or the Tar sun?
It can very well be. See, linguistics is very important. And if this man, like he said, got it from a dream, that means he got it from an archetype. and getting it from an archetype, then it could very well be.
Because you mentioned something like is the ape man considered like a Tahuti type character? The ape baboon type of...
Well, we do know that the apes, the ape of Thoth, they call it. The ape of Thoth. And I'm going to tell you what the ape means. The ape of Thoth means this. The ape is attributed of having more of a physical body than the complete function of brains. Right? The ape of Thoth in Egyptian mythology means the physical body of Tahuti, which Tahuti is the god of wisdom and knowledge. And Tahuti's number is the number 8, which is infinity. And it's also talking about 8 alchemical components, which is also, Tahuti is also Hermes, and Hermes is the god of magic, and Hermes is the Hermetics, which is talking about alchemy. So the ape of Thoth also in Egyptian thing is talking about the physical body. Tahuti of Thoth is the, Thoth in Hebrew is Dath, which is knowledge, gnosis, and the black dot in the tree of life. So Thoth is also another symbol for melanin also. So the ape of Thoth would mean the physical body, because the physical body is the concealed place that the spirit is trapped in. So that's what it means in Egypt. You see what I'm saying? That's what it means in Egypt, the ape of Thoth. It's metaphysical. You see, and it didn't mean that, it's metaphysical. Yeah.
Another word that you mentioned Frankenstein. I was thinking about that. Would Frankenstein break down to something like free in stone? And that would sound like a Freemason or free in body?
Well, I don't know, because, let's see.
Frank means something like free or free of thought?
I think you're going to have to just basically go to Jewish linguistics. Stein, that's Jewish. You see what I'm saying? And it can very well be. I'm just saying on that particular part, like again, Mary Shelley, this white woman just writes this book. You see what I'm saying? Just writes this book. Bram Stoker's Dracula. You see what I'm saying? Well, we know the whole thing behind the Dracula thing and all. That's the real deal on the vampires. So, I'm just saying, I'm not ruling out linguistics. You can't rule it out as being stupid. Because we do this because we get a little more educated, and because we think that, everything got to be backed up by the white man. But then again, we channel every day and rule it out. So the mere fact that you are dealing with the linguistics and hitting those notes, that means how real it is. That's how real knowledge works. It comes through you. So it can very well be.
One thing you said yesterday that I thought was interesting about the Dracula syndrome. From the movies I've seen, they have a Renfield character that he fights but not kills. Could that be like that's what I can say, like an Uncle Tom character that in between who helps him at certain stages?
Could very well be. Could very well be.
Collect the blood for him?
It could very well be. Yeah, I mean, all the movies you got to look at them. Take the answer to this Mars Attacks. Now they came in and they killed every white person in the movie, except Jim Brown, because he went on the Pharaoh outfit. And Jim Brown went toe to toe with their ass and even killed their master. And they gave him the beat down, but they didn't kill him. See? And their flag was red, black, and green with a black pyramid with the yellow dot, the black and gold. Now everybody got killed but the white people that Jim Brown saved. He saved about 3 of them. Well, he saved 2 of them because the sister he saved, she had on a Pharaoh out, she was black. And the only other people that didn't get killed in the White House was Jim Brown's 2 sons that knew how to play video games. So they were shooting Martians in the video. And when the Martians dropped their guns, they was tearing the Martians behind up. The only other black person they killed was Paul Winfield, who was playing Colin Powell, the Uncle Tom. And they ate his ass up. He was the first to die. He was the person to die in the movie. Well, yeah, the first person to die in the movie. They first burned up some cows. But the key about it is they was killing white people the same way white people kill us. They come in and they go, we want peace. We want peace. Then, as soon as they say we want peace, they look around and they blow up everybody and start laughing. Then they come back and say, oh, we sorry. We didn't understand your signals. We really want peace this time. We want to talk to the president. We want to get along. And then, as soon as they say that, they look around, the coast clear, and they blow up the place again, kill everybody. They be laughing. You gotta see, the movie is awesome when you know the symbology behind it. But they didn't kill, they only killed one black man in the movie. And that was the first person they killed was Colin Powell, the Uncle Tom. And Jim Brown, his sons had to get the guns from them, their own guns, and they was killing. His sons, Jim Brown had two little boys like 12 and 13, and they was killing up some people. But Jim Brown was the only one that had to kill them. He was the only one. He went with them toe to toe with his Pharaoh outfit, and he beat about 10 of them by himself. You see what I'm saying? And he was married to Pam Grier. But all the black people living, the only white people that got killed, that lived, that was under the attack of the Martians, was the one that Jim Brown saved. And he had on the Pharaoh outfit. And then they tried to blow him up with a nuclear bomb, and they had this round thing look like a enema. And it sucked in the nuclear thing. When they took it on the ship, they were getting high off of it and laughing with the same nuclear energy. It was the Mars attack. It was interesting. And the thing about it is, somebody said that people in the theaters was crying when they saw it. White people was crying. But when they took the White House, that was the last thing. When they killed Jack Nicholson and took the White House, they popped up the flag, red, black, and green, and yellow. Sure did. Mars attack. Mars is who? Heru. Heru is the god of war, which is symbolized Mars. You see what I'm saying? So Tim Burton, crazy as he is, he made him look all funny to throw you off. You think it's some old kiddie movie. They drop all the science. Mars attack. Go see it. Go see it. We saw it the other night. And it's interesting because we got in for free. We got it. We walked in the thing, and a brother said, "Come on." And he said, he worked at the theater. He said, I got some things I got to pass. And people get in tonight. Y'all come on. There was some white people up in there, and he got me, my sister, and the other brother we was with in Tyrone. They got us in the movie for free. But Mars Attack was a jam. I mean, you know what's going on and all. And they was killing white people just like the Indians was killing people. Oh, we want peace. As soon as they say they want peace, they tear your butt up and be laughing. Yeah, it was something, boy. As soon as they said they wanted peace, they was tearing people up.
The first time I seen the commercial for that, I thought of a spoof on Independence Day. How would you relate, and how would that come like a year later? I mean, year after.
It was a spoof on Independence Day, but these were the ones was getting the best of them. You know, at the end they got to kill him and all. They took some Slim Whitman music, and the vibration from the Slim Whitman music was busting and blowing their heads up and stuff. That was funny and all. But it was a spoof, but shoot, the black man. Let's put it this way: the Will Smith, who was the Uncle Tom in the movie, he died. He was the first one to die. The only one was able to live was what's her name? Who had on a pharaoh outfit because he was working for the Luxor Temple in Las Vegas. You know, very key movie. Give me some more questions. I know we got some more questions.
Well, I have.
Well, whatever, as long as you tell yours and give her a chance to take us some.
Two more quick words. This has been bugging me for a couple of years now. America, could that be broken down somewhat to Amara?
Amara.
I always thought that had similar linguistic sound too. The hidden sun has the...
Yeah, but see, you got Ma, Ra, Ka. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, it could very well be. It could very well be. All these things I'm telling. Well, first of all, we know that the Masons did all this, and a lot of things you think is history is actually symbolic stuff. You see what I'm saying? So we do know that. So I wouldn't put it past that. I'm gonna have to go and write it out my actual self. You see.